car. He's gone off. He's been tapped, and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin! Oh no!
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lalum does have the inside track for the Swiss left. If he's able to make that pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean as they come into the right-hander. This is it. Chris Lalum seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lalum takes it.
Right there, Vic Miranda, Pedro Zuma into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone off into the barriers, coming up to the cutting.
David Todd making his way back up, has already climbed 7 positions.
Oh, it's supposed to be soon there. Sandy goes up.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Todd passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain. Up the mountain, we have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to lead? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Todd right now going into the pit lane.
To save our home.
Another beautiful day out in England, UK. That's right, folks. We're back at Brands Hatch today. Everybody, I'd love to welcome you back to Season 5 of AMX Sim Racing World Championship, where things have been very, very well so far. We're out here, like I said, Brands Hatch in the Renault Clios today. I am Kevin, and joining me alongside is Damon. So, Damon, we are nearly halfway through the season, and like I said, it's a great, interesting track car combination today. Just a quick recap for everyone that's been here. So we do have AMX 5 meeting up with Gael Valero, last season's AMX 10 overall champion, now leading in points. Damon, do you think Gael has a pretty decent shot at winning the championship again this season?
I think just as in last season, he definitely has a pretty good chance. It almost seems mind-boggling to me that we're halfway through the season already. Time really flies, and we're starting to see the names get really into the points and starting to see results come already. So it'll be really exciting to see how things get shaken up this particular weekend.
I couldn't agree more. So, like we always say, folks, make sure you follow all of our social media. It'll pop up periodically on the screen, as well as checking out the website, amxrace.com. You can get the full schedule of things. If you want to get in on these races, we'd love to have you. But before we get into today's race, we have a few housekeeping things to go over. So, this season, like you said, man, we are nearly halfway through. I can't believe the time's flown. We started back May 25th, and we're going all the way through August 18th. We have a season prize pool of $15,000 and next level racing gear. So today's race goes as following. For AMX 5, we have a 20-minute qual, followed by a top 15 reverse grid, going into heat number 1 of 20 minutes, followed by another top 15 reverse grid, going into that second 20-minute heat. So for all the drivers out here racing with us today, driver cams are required. You can get the link via our AMX Discord or on the website. Payouts are done in balances over $100, paid out every single month. Once you hit that $100 threshold, that money's headed your way. So race days, this season we are out here every single weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And like I mentioned, you can get signed up anytime at amxrace.com. Get the full schedule, get signed up, win you some money. So like I mentioned, we are here every Saturday and Sunday, starting at 5:50 p.m. GMT, and another race following at 7:20. Every other week we switch it up. However, we do have our Assetto Corsa Competizione races And on the opposite weekends, we have AMX 0 starting at 5:50 p.m., followed by AMX 20 at 7 p.m. So our prize pool for the AMX 5 in iRacing goes in points for qualifying as well as Heat 1 and 2. First place getting $15, second and third 9 to 15th place. Then once we get into Heat number 1 and 2, the points are similar, but you get $2 extra for setting the fastest lap, totaling to a $250 total prize pool per race, and it's a minimum I rating of 2,000 for these races. So if you have that minimum I rating, you want to get in here and show what you got, feel free to head over and sign up, win you some prizes. Like I mentioned, we do have for AMX 5, our beautiful sponsor over at Next Level Racing, the AMX 5. Get yourself a GT Elite as well as an ERS3 seat to go along with that. So one of the best sim rig setups that you can get out here. Once again, thanks to our great partners over at Next Level Racing. So the championship lead, hey, you may be very well getting one of the best rigs headed your way. And now we're going to head over to Damon to go into a little bit more. Like we mentioned, we're back out at Brands Hatch. But Damon, tell the lovely folks exactly what we're doing out here today's race.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And yes, today we are, of course, in England, the city of Kent, more particularly, on Brands Hatch here in the UK. Opened in 1950, will actually be running on the Indy layout for this particular race, which is a much shorter layout that goes through McLaren instead of Fairway. That goes into McLaren instead of Pilgrim's Drop. So very short lap. So we'll have a lot of laps going by with the cars that we'll be taking along this time around. And just as you'll see on screen right now, these will be the cars that the drivers will be taking along this time around. Yeah, so as you can see on screen, we are, of course, on the Renault Clio Cup cars. These cars are very beginner friendly. They have about 200 horsepower going to the front wheels, about a ton in weight with a sequential 6-speed gearbox, which should mean that these cars are going to be really competitive because at the end of the day, driver skill will take precedence because all these cars will be evenly matched. But that's enough about the car and the track. We've gone through the song and dance 100 times. So Kevin, why don't we take it straight to qualifying?
That's great. And like one thing that we always say, it definitely shakes things up a bit when we put a lot of these drivers, especially the pro drivers that are used to these high power, high downforce cars, and we put them in something a little bit slower, as well as something like this too, where, you know, we have our TCR class, which a lot of these guys drive as well, which are front wheel drive, but the Renault Clio, just a little bit less power, like you said, very much so one of those entry-level cup cars. But so far, with the shorter layout, it should definitely make things interesting out here today.
Yeah, and also contrary to the TCR cars, these cars are pretty much really close to standard. They have racing roll cage, they have interior weight reduction. You can see on the interior cam right now, no passenger seat, no rear seat, only the racing seat, and very simple dashboard. So it's almost close to stock, which means that in terms of other stuff like the suspension, the downforce, it's sorely lacking compared to TCR cars. So despite this being a beginner's car, there definitely are going to be certain challenges for these drivers taking them around. But if we look at the driver list that we have on screen now, you can see these drivers are no stranger to AMX, and we know them to be excellent on track.
Just like you can see right there, folks, with the shorter layout, a lot of these guys easily running under the 55s, easily a lot of them right now in the 52s. So we shouldn't really see too much of a difference. Like we said, there is, when you slow it down, there's a lot less room for those little tiny mistakes. So these cars just a little bit more forgiving for the smallest mistakes. And like that too, I expect to be a lot of door banging, a lot of bumper bumping. So we'll just have to wait and see. But right now, Jackson Assange currently leading with the fastest lap. He has in a 52.020. So the lead getting shifted up a little bit as Bruno De Carmo also able to get back up into that second place position right now. So like we said, we have a little bit more than halfway of this qualifying session to go. So I expect a lot of these times to change as these drivers get more and more comfortable with this track layout.
Yeah, and we already know some of these drivers are exceptionally fast. With the inclusion of drivers like Xavier Pla, we have Jackson Resende here, Gaston Kuhavi, Dino Filippo, all very, very fast drivers as we are extremely familiar with. Jackson Resende, the man on your screen right now, we know him to be very fast, especially in terms of qualifying, but there have been certain days where he really hasn't been able to translate that into real race results yet. So we'll have to see if this weekend is a bit more fruitful for him. Still on the top of the leaderboard, which it puts him in a very good spot actually, but he's still got some stiff competition behind him.
Yeah, and looking at the standings right now for the AMX5 iRacing Championship, Jackson Assange currently sitting in that second place position, but right now there is a decent gap between him and Gael Valero, which, looking at the timing screen, Gael Valero still been sitting in the pits, has not yet to set a lap, so we'll have to wait and see if he's able to set a lap time down out here before the end of it. So luckily with these sub 1 minute laps, that definitely gives him plenty of time to get out there on the track. But right now we are looking at Bruno De Carmo. So we have a Brazilian 1, 2, 3 so far in qualifying. Let's see if they'll be able to hold on to that lead. Like I said, a lot of the races out here have been the South American countries absolutely dominating, more specifically Brazil and Argentinian drivers out here doing what they do best and really showing why they are on the esports teams that they are. So now we see Pedro Moura going into the pits. So he's going to definitely go in, take a little bit of time, see, maybe review his laps, see where he can improve and get back out on the track.
Yeah, and Pedro Moura here, the amalgamation of both Pedro Dean and Leo Moura's names together combined, just going to make it very, very difficult to call out when it comes to actual racing. So I guess we'll have to prepare for that mentally. But he's doing pretty well for himself. Still P3 on the board as of right now. Still waiting for a bunch of drivers to set their fast laps, and we can see that already a bunch of drivers are sacking it because they want to clear some room, clear the air between them and the other racers. That's Alberto Sanau we're looking at right now. He just sacked this lap in order to give himself more space. But P4 on the board, and yeah, as you mentioned before, look at how close the times are between the top 10. Less than 3/10 between all of these drivers.
So that is definitely going to be a preview for what we can expect going into heat number 1. Like you said, that's mind-boggling to see about that. Less than half a second between the top 2. Well, even less than 3/10 of a second. Yeah, like you said, that is mind-blowing to me. And we can see a few of these drivers, like we said, that are used to the TCR cars, used to some of those front-wheel drive vehicles. So they do drive just a little bit differently out here, especially when you're trying to push it to the limit. So that may very well be the deciding factor for whoever's going to win today's heats, is just how comfortable are they racing a front-wheel drive car out here, especially one that they really have to be able to get it to pull around those corners. Oh, as we can see, these cars, even though they're front-wheel drive, can still get a little bit squirrely. Looking at the backside of Leo Moura, looks like the driver behind him too, just getting a little bit squirrely. But also out here too, Leo Moura, one person that we haven't seen quite as much in the AMX5 races. We've seen him out in Assetto Corsa Competizione. We've seen him last season as well, some of the NASCAR races. So we've seen a lot of these guys that they are just out here. So like we said, if you want to get signed up, it's only a minimum of 2,000 iRating. Get yourself out here, AMX5. And like we said today, there's only about 13 drivers on the grid currently. So as we see a few people getting locked up, trying to not cause an incident, all those is still qualifying. These guys, things still getting a little bit close, a little bit sketchy out here. But like I was saying, yeah, feel free to get signed up, amxrace.com, and get in the grid. Like today, where there aren't 15 drivers total, like we said, top 15 drivers get points and get money added to their account. So you feel like you can come out here and perhaps a day like today, show off in the Renault Clio, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, one of the new drivers that we're seeing at AMX5 for the very first time here is Giulio Posilico on the student driver Renault Clio. I'm not sure why he's on the racetrack. Shouldn't he still be in driving school? But yeah, first time racing AMX, all the best to him. We can see he is actually really decently on pace with some of the other drivers here. So it'll be interesting to see how he fares compared to these more seasoned veterans of AMX. As we noticed earlier while you were talking, Alberto Senao actually cinched P1 away from Jackson Resende with a sub 52-second lap. So now he's the man to beat with less than 5 minutes left in qualifying.
Looking at that, so it looks like he does have one of the bigger gaps between the drivers. So between first and second place right now, a 600th of a second gap. And a lot of these other guys in second, third, fourth, all about 100, 300s, 200s. So Alberto Senao not only being able to clinch that first place, but right now he's clinching with ease as he's able to improve upon his lap time now. So right there you see the purple timing on the screen means that he is able to get an even faster lap. So ever so inching out the race right there. That's definitely going to be one of the drivers to look out for out here. Alberto Senao, like we said, Jackson Senjay sitting in that second place in the overall championship standings. He's definitely not going to make it easy for him.
Yeah, definitely. And Alberto Senao, again, improving his time. So we already know he's going to be a man to watch. But for some of these other drivers, they definitely do have something to prove still. As you can see there, the top of the boards right now, we have Pedro Mora, Gaston Clavi, and Dino Filippa. Again, two Argentinian drivers that we know are very, very quick indeed. They just sometimes have on days, sometimes have off days. That's kind of how it is in racing. Sometimes it really is dependent on how you're feeling for that particular instance. Zevi Bla in the back there with Rafael Benitez trailing behind him, Evandro Dantas as well, and Diego Villarreal rounding up the top 10. So, again, these drivers really going to have to find a way to push these cars to the absolute limit. You can see there's some at certain points on the track where the front tires are just blowing up tire smoke, trying to get that front end to bite in on the exit. It's definitely going to be a challenge, and it'll be interesting to see how competitive these cars are, especially at the start when they're all so evenly matched.
Now here, I know a lot of people, this is one of the most famous racetracks in the world. Definitely, I'd say probably other than Silverstone, the other most famous track in the UK. But like out here, there's a lot of places that we're not getting to see. You know, there's a lot of landmarks out here. So other than really, I mean, the famous Druids Corner right there, there's not too many places. Whoa, these guys really trying to get every little bit of grip out there. So I expect we're going to see a lot of tire smoke coming out of these cars. So like I said, they're not, they don't have too much grip, too much downforce out here, especially out here being a Cup car for the Renault Clio Cups. They do have a little bit different tires than what you may expect on some of the other vehicles as well. So just a little bit everything against them, really going to show these drivers' skill. How well can they do when they have no grip out here from the very beginning? So it's kind of reminiscent of the MX-5 Cup cars as well. So a lot of people very, very comfortable with those in iRacing. But like I said, those being rear-wheel drive, these ones being front-wheel drive. As Dino Filippa coming across now, you know, he's happy about that. He's grinning from ear to ear, setting the fastest qualifying lap of a 51.93. So only 9 thousandths of a second over Alberto Senao. We're going to definitely have great battles going on. I just feel it.
Yeah, definitely. Dino Filippa coming in near the tail end of qualifying, have a blisteringly quick lap. Some of the cars are still on track, waiting to set a fast lap there. Jackson Resende, unfortunately, not able to improve on his time. In fact, he has unfortunately sacked a couple of laps, either due to traffic or just not getting the pace that he wanted. We're on board with Pedro Dean right now. Little bit of a different color scheme compared to what he normally drives around. Usually, I see him drive around in full jet black liveries. Something a little bit different this time around. I'm liking it so far. But yeah, 1 minute to the end of qualifying, and right now, all I'm really looking forward to is seeing how the race is going to pan out, especially right at the beginning.
That's one thing I love seeing. A lot of these guys, especially the ones that are on esports teams, when we throw out a little bit of a different vehicle like today, the Renault Clio Cup cars, not really that popular out in iRacing these days. It's one of, like you said, it's one of those kind of entry-level series. So where these guys are used to a lot of perhaps maybe the Super Formulas or Super Formula Lights now, or even the GT3s, GTPs, a lot of these vehicles that these guys run week in and week out, they have their team liveries on the side of them. So I love, especially some of these getting creative. Also switching it up today, going on later after this race, we will be heading back over to Talladega. So definitely expect a lot of these road racers to head out on the oval. That always makes for an interesting time. And we'll have to wait and see, too, if we have any oval specialists out there on the grid. So, speaking of specialists, like I said, we have Leo Mora. I know he's one of those guys out there doing amazing on the dirt tracks. And as I mentioned that, our qualifying comes to an end.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Jackson Resende dropped another position there, so he's going to be in P4 at the end of qualifying. I believe it was Bruno De Carmo who, in fact, took that position away from him. But, yeah, really unlucky for Jackson Resende that he was really in with a shout. But for him, at least, he'll be able to try and make up time by starting a bit further ahead on the grid. Man, I'm really looking forward to this race start. It's been a while since I've gone through a race like this. It's been a couple of weeks, I think. I'm really interested to get back into the swing of things. And we're about to start Heat 1 in just a moment. And, well, I don't know what else to say except it's going to be a great one, I think.
Yeah, and looking at that too, especially just looking at the overall championship lead right now. So like we said, we do have Kyle Valero who was in there. It didn't look like he was able to really set lap time. We'll have to see exactly what happens from Kyle Valero. But like we're saying, Jackson Sanjay, Pedro Dean, Gaston Kulavi. So a lot of those guys right now are fighting for points for the overall championship with, especially right here, looking at Pedro Dean, Gaston Kulavi, look like they have one of the closest gaps as well as Bruno De Carmo. So definitely should expect to see what happens between those guys. But right now we are gridding up moments away from the green flag out here at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, we're just waiting for a few more cars to load in and we're going to get ready for the flag off. Galvalero starting for the front a bit this time. Actually wasn't able to set a qualifying time, but that gives him a really good starting position. We'll have to see whether or not they'll be able to handle the launch. And again, with these entry-level cars, I can see that that sunny livery from Need for Speed Most Wanted on that Renault Clio. They're pretty creative. I like that. And yeah, Renault Clios. The secret to a great racing driver is whether or not you'll be able to drive a slow car fast. Oh, already bungling a start. That was Rafa Benitez. I think he didn't notice the start light went off and just stalled it on the entry, which means that he just got completely turned around as they're coming into the Paddock Hill curve now. What a way to start Heat 1, everybody. Here he goes. Julio Basilico is holding on to that P1 position with Leo Mora hanging along right behind him with Diego Villarreal and P3. Pedro Dean behind him. Gaston Kuhavi rounding out the top 5. And Rafa Benitez already, unfortunately, in terrible position to start off Heat 1. Ooh, a little bit of swerving there. Is Leo Mora going to be swerving into Diego Villarreal? A little bit of jostling back and forth as they're entering McLaren right now. And Diego Villarreal is succeeding the space over to Leo Mora here. Holding on to that, and a bunch of tire smoke is billowing up. Nino Felipa, our initial qualifying leader, is still stuck at P10, unable to make any headway right now. Alongside Alberto Senao, Galvalero is making some time up, and just like that, we're already into lap 2. So that gives you really an idea of how fast this lap's going to be. Oh my god, Diego Villarreal, he really locked it up into Paddock Hill, and then just goes way off. The understeer on these cars is real. Oh, another accident holding on there.
Giuseppe Villarreal, Pedro Dean, Gael Valero, all of these guys towards the back. So, I mean, they got really comfortable with how just warm their tires. Like I said, these tires themselves don't have very much grips out here, especially these skinny tires on a front-wheel drive vehicle, prone to a lot of understeer like we've already been seeing out here. So, lap 1 into lap 2, just absolute carnage going on as we see more wheels locking up there that look like Gaston Kulavi. So, Zevi Plow right now. Oh, getting taken out, hitting on the rear. Man, that was a great save right there by Zevi Plow. So, Leo Mora had another spin out. Leo Mora getting spun out there. Luckily, not really taking anyone else in that. So, geez, man, it is absolutely bumper cars out here today in our race 21 of the season, man. This is definitely one of those. So, for all those people that say, all right, slow cars can't be interesting, hey, right here, this is proving everyone wrong.
Man, actually, very chaotic early set of laps. I almost come to expect this. Ooh, look at that! That was, I think, Jackson Resende's car Oh my god, he's got major suspension damage there. You can see he's gone on 3 wheels all the way since the start of the lap. So he's definitely feeling the burn right now. I think he was one of the cars that got bumped near the start finish straight, and he's definitely not going to be happy with that. Suspension damage all around. Ended up on 3 wheels throughout most of the first sector of the track. Not a good look on the car itself. So he's probably going to have to limp back to the pits and try to get it repaired.
Yeah, and right here too. So you can see in the picture in the bottom right, Benitez, yep, it just looks like he just stalled out right there on the line. And unfortunately, just getting taken out by the other drivers, not quite having enough room to get around him. So it's that last minute. That's very surprising from seeing such a experienced driver for that happening. But like I said, it happens to the best of them. As we can see right here too, all of these drivers, still some of them out there with damage still going on, trying to push it. A few people have had to hit the pits, try to get whatever damage they can repaired, get back on there. So like I said, having 23 laps out here in each heat, definitely anything can happen. We're only 4 laps in, and it's been absolute chaos going on. So this is definitely one of those things. Although these guys are out here fighting for position, fighting for points, it's definitely an all-out brawl out here today.
Yeah, and our current debutant, Giulio Posilico, is still holding on to that lead pretty comfortably right now. Gaston Colhavi is about a second down on him. Gal Valero, of course, you were talking about how he wasn't able to set a qualifying time, is actually now making it past the mid-pack, midway part of the pack right now. So he's definitely on the charge. Just has to get through a bunch of other drivers. And Pedro Dean is actually hot on his heels right now, trying to see if Gal Valero will make any sort of mistake. In fact, the last lap, he actually did overcook the entry into turn 2 just a little bit, going a bit wide. And again, these cars in particular, front wheel drive, very, very prone to understeering, especially in corners as tight as on Brands Hatch here. We're on board with Pedro Mora right now, holding off Diego Villarreal on his rear end. This is the battle for P6 about that. And Diego Villarreal is going to try his best to make up the gap, because he did drop quite a few positions.
So although Pedro Mora is sitting in the middle of the pack, he does so far have the fastest lap. So it was at a 51.951. So Pedro Mora showing great pace out here, already up 4 positions from where he was on the grid. So like I said, he still has plenty of time. We're only 6 laps into this thing. Let's see if he has enough to be able to pass Alberto Sanel, Zevi Pla, Dino Filippo. Like I said, those guys also showing absolute great pace during qualifying, so he'll definitely have his work cut out if he wants to get up onto a podium position. But right now, he's looking in his rear view, trying to hold off Diego Villarreal. Like I said, he has just a little bit more pace over Villarreal, but with these cars, a lot of them been pushing them beyond their limits, been absolutely just shredding those tires so far. We've seen a lot of lockups, a lot of understeer, a lot of these guys getting into the side of one another. So we'll have to see, as right now, Kulavi finally catching up to Giulio Posilico. See if he's able to get that top spot. So out here we have Posilico coming out as one of the newbies for AMX, but also he's not a newbie to iRacing. Don't let his iRating fool you. He's coming out here. He's taking advantage of it. Has excellent pace. He has excellent racecraft skills. Definitely everything going on here. So we'll have to see if he's able to hold on to that top spot. We're only a few laps into this. Like I said, we'll have to just wait and see, folks. But right now, the battle's heating up for first place. Oh, a little bit of lockup going on there. These guys going bumper to bumper now.
Yeah, and for front-wheel drive cars especially, at the exit speed matters the most when it comes to tackling corners, especially ones that are as deep and as sharp as Brands Hatch. And Posilico is actually finding that out right now as he's struggling with the pressure from Gaston Colhavi and Dino Filippo. All on his heels right now. Here comes Gaston Colhavi. Is going to try for a dive on the inside of turn 2. Little bit of a nudge, love tap, telling him, hey, I'm coming through. You better not be blocking me. And Dino Filippo is going to take the same advantage as they're coming into turn 4 right now. Very tight line they have to take through there. Posilico unable to hold on to the lead just yet. They're pulling alongside as they're entering McLaren right now. About to cap off the lap 7. And yeah, Posilico having to concede positions to the Argentinians right now. So now it's a battle between Gaston Colhavi and Dino Filippo for the front of the pack.
So here we go, folks. Things finally heating up even more than they were as Dino Filippo now making a beautiful pass on the outside. We'll see. He's getting a little bit of speed, so will he be able to hold onto it going into turn number 1? Looks like he does. So right there, Dino Filippo, we've seen him setting amazing times in qualifying, and now finally able to get up about 5 position, or sorry, able to get back up into the lead. Whoa, we have again a little bit of sketchiness. So right here, I've noticed from a lot of these drivers so far that they're getting a little bit more hesitant of some of the curbing out here. So some of the curbs are very, very flat, like we see right here on the outside of the corners, but some of the guys trying to cut into the corners really tight. Seems like some of the curbing upsetting the cars just a little bit. So that's one of those that, you know, a lot of these guys trying to memorize which turns are a little bit more than the others. As we see, whoa, right there, Zevi Pla going to the inside, right on the bumper. Will he be able to make the move? So it's a drag race between him and Posilico. So we have to see a little bit of contact right there, sending Posilico to the outside. So these guys, everyone throughout the entire grid right now, definitely knowing how much they can give and take with these cars.
These drivers definitely out for blood right now, and we're not even halfway through the race yet, and Posilico is just losing control of the state of the race right now. Just dropped another 2 positions to both Zevi Pla and Alberto Senao. Feeling the pressure a little bit from these drivers, these seasoned veterans, and now Pedro Mora is going to be hot on his heels, looking to see if he can do what the 2 other drivers in front of him just did. And Posilico is really struggling to keep that car under control. And again, with these Renault Clios, they might be entry-level cars, but they could still definitely bite you, as is the case with all types of cars in motorsports. And yeah, it's all a matter of whether or not you'll be able to keep that under control. In fact, I feel like the student driver livery is pretty apt for this particular situation, I mean.
So right here, like you mentioned, absolutely, some of these guys out here, Dino Filippa, Gaston Culavi, Zevi Pla, Alberto Senao, these guys just showing their absolute veteran status out here. They have a lot of experience, and right now it's definitely showing as they're able to make place after place. So Posilico, though, I will give it to him. He's doing an absolutely great job at the beginning of this race, was doing really good job defending, but like we said, there's just some of these drivers out here that they have just a little bit more time in the seat. Seat time is absolutely everything if you want to get better out here. So that, as well as just driving multitudes of cars in multitudes of series. We can see right there the Pedro Dean incident down in the bottom. So, it was a bumper to bumper, and then just getting taken out right on the inside. The few other drivers right there also getting bumped around. So, man, this has been an absolute crazy wreck fest out here today. So like we see, there's still quite a few people, though. Looks like Ralph Benitez, Jackson Asenje, who were doing really well earlier on, unfortunately getting caught up in some incidents now, also down a lap. So we'll have to see. Things have been pretty clean the last several laps, but like I said, knock on wood, we're not even halfway through this heat number 1.
Actually, we just actually crested the halfway point, so you know, definitely going to start heating up as we approach the later stages of the race. And yeah, as you mentioned before, look at how much tire smoke is going on. Oh, Zevi Pla really going hard on the brakes. In fact, locking it up on the entry, which gives Alberto Senao room to make it past. These 2 cars are sharing the same livery, so I'm assuming they're on the same racing team as well. So maybe a little bit of a team effort here for these 2 drivers to try to keep the other drivers behind them at bay. But Zevi Pla is, that final corner is kind of a little bit of his kryptonite, I feel.
Yeah, coming out. So usually on a shorter race like this, the tire wear doesn't come in too much, but as much tire smoke as we've seen out here, like we said, these tires, very skinny tires on these cars that don't have too much downforce going on. So it's all that mechanical grip out here today. But with that, like I said, now being just over halfway through the race, it's definitely going to start coming into play here pretty soon with that tire degradation. So a lot of these vehicles that just, I feel like the width of the tires in themselves, these drivers not really being able to push them as much as they would like, especially with how much understeer they have, really heating up those front tires and putting a lot of wear into them. So we'll see if there's any sort of strategies playing into that. If there's some of the drivers maybe in the midfield right now saying, all right, I know that I'm going to have to save a little bit of tire going into this if I want to get on the podium, wait for those last several laps to try and just push it with everything I have, or just wait for some of the guys as their tires are wearing off, maybe just make a mistake, maybe start going wide, maybe start doing that. As we've seen, you know, it's one of those things that we've seen the first couple laps when the tires were still cold. These guys had no grip. I expect to see that possibly the last couple of laps as well. When they're battling it out, those tires are just worn to shreds.
Yeah, and in racing like this, even though it's kind of a sprint most of the time, it's much easier to manage fuel than it is to manage tires. And I know for a fact that these drivers definitely won't have a problem with fuel. I mean, they're not running large capacity V8s. They're running small 4-cylinders. But regardless of that, however, the biggest resource that they have to manage is the tires. And for now, Xavi Blah is still having it under control. But with the amount of tire smoke he specifically has been billowing out, I'm not entirely sure whether or not he'll be able to maintain this pace all the way until the end of the race, as he's still facing an extreme amount of pressure from Pedro Moura there behind him, still closing the gap ever so slightly. Probably look to make a move pretty quickly, pretty soon, and they're entering McLaren in just a moment right now. And 15 laps down, you really start to feel the pressure, especially when the grid is pretty spaced out and you're just competing with 1 or 2 cars for that position.
So like you mentioned, the grid definitely spreading out a little bit. So right now, Dino Filippa, the leader, has almost a 2-second gap. And now we're seeing the incident down in the bottom right-hand corner between Leo Mar. Ooh, just right there. That was an excellent save going on as well. So probably saving the day, but then nonetheless, right after that, more cars getting involved, sliding back, coming around. So even if you're holding the brakes on these, with these tires, the little grip that they do have, you're still going to get thrown right into the driver next to you. Like I was mentioning, so now Dino Filippa, the leader, with over a 2-second gap, and then between second and third place, we have nearly a 2-second gap as well. So right now the battle is for third place. We have Xavi Pla looking, he's been working with Alberto Senal a little bit, but now that he may have just a little bit of pace over him, as well as Pedro Moura coming up behind him as well, a little bit more pace. So they'll have to see, are they going to make a move right now, or are they going to try and get that gap work together? Or is the Brazilian Pedro Moura going to be able to not only overtake Xavi Pla, but also Alberto Senal? So we're lap 17 of 23 into it. We have about just over 5 laps to go in here, and things definitely are going to start heating up.
And I think that's Xavi Pla on the opponent camp here, not wearing a shirt, definitely trying to beat the summer heat here. But if it makes it comfortable and ready for fast racing, then go for it. Right now, still trying to fend off Pedro Moura here is Xavi Pla, but slowly losing a little bit of time ever so slightly. We've got about 6 laps left till the end of this first heat, and definitely you want to try and make a move within the ladder last 5, maybe 4 laps, because then you be in the defensive position. And on a track as narrow as this, I think the defensive position is slightly better. You just have to make sure that you don't overcook it on corner entry and then bottle it on the exit, because that's where these cars are going to scrub off the most speed. And for these cars in particular, you definitely do not want to scrub off any speed if you can.
And one thing to keep in mind too, so we do have a couple drivers that are down a lap, so we'll have to see if that plays into it. I know Dino Filippa, he's had a lot of pace, a lot of clean air to start getting faster and faster laps, but we'll have to see if he runs to the back of Jackson Asenge or Ralph Benitez. So right now, like I said, with on lap 18 out of 23, that is very possible, as Dino Filippa still showing excellent pace. However, Pedro Moura still with slightly faster laps, so we'll see if Pedro Moura is able to hold on to the fastest lap, or is he going to get held back by Xavi Pla and Alberto Senal. So we also have that battle going on for P8 back there in the back as well. Gael Valero trying to hold off Ivan Dantas, Pedro Dean, Bruno De Carmo. So also a lot of other quick drivers that got caught up in incidents early on, now fighting towards the back of the pack.
Yeah, and for the next heat, some of these drivers are definitely going to be on a bit of a redemption drive, but not right now, as Xavi Pla is still trying to fend off Pedro Moura. This gap between these two cars have been non-existent, as Pedro Moura looking to try and cut him on the inside, not close enough to take the inside line. Unfortunately, Xavi Pla still doing a pretty good job defending, but Alberto Senal is also a part of his team member trying to fend off both these cars at once. And but now Alberto Senal actually losing quite a bit of understeer on the exit. That gives Xavi Pla an opportunity to try and make a move on his teammate. He tries to make the pass as clean as possible as they're entering the start-finish straight. Lap 20, 3 laps left, and Pedro Moura are going to be left a little bit in the dust there. But these two cars are competing against each other as they're entering Paddock Hill curve. Pedro Moura looking to see if he could make a dive in, trying to see if Alberto Senal might have lost a little bit of balance, keeping it under control thus far as they're coming into turn 2. And Pedro Moura still trying to make that position happen, just not cutting it for the time being.
And they're looking at the cams of the drivers. It definitely looks like I would assume what would be them talking to each other, trying to strategize. So we've seen there Zemipla with just a little bit more pace finally make that overtake, but I think both of them know of Pedro Mura is right behind them, and he's been saying the fastest lap, so he does have quite a lot of pace in him. So definitely it's always great, like we say out here, when you have your teammates out on the grid. So we have the two Rincon Racing drivers showing what they can do out here, and definitely trying to at least have one of them be on that podium position. So a little bit of gap between them in second place, but although you're battling it out with your teammate, at the very end of the day, you want one of you to at least be on the podium, if not both of you. So definitely them still doing a great job now. However, Alberto Senao doing an amazing job of defending, so really holding off Pedro Mura. Although Pedro Mura has the pace, like we say, it's not about who can just set the fastest laps. You still have to be able to pass the guy in front of you.
Yeah, Pedro Mura has been looking for opportunities. I think we're scratching about 10 laps. Ooh, a little bit of a shot there from Alberto Senao into the back of Zevipla's car, slowing both of them down, actually, giving Pedro Mura an opportunity to pass both cars on the final corner. That's not going to be a good news for both of these drivers, and they're trying to claw that position back, but it feels like the teamwork is falling apart a little bit.
Yeah, right there. I'm not sure if he just made just a little bit of an error. Wasn't sure as, going wide. We see there Pedro Mura and able to take that back. But like we said, we're only a couple laps left in this, so expect a lot more as the teammates giving each other a little bump. That's putting Pedro Mura back into the back of them again. So I think right now, like you said, hey, they got a little bit into it as teammates, but I think that was just, hey, one of them just made a little bit of a mistake, came a little too hot, and unfortunately shunted his fellow teammate out of the way just a little bit. But now that they are back into Alberto Senao in that third place position, definitely looks like Zevipla focusing a lot more on trying to defend than he is right now about getting back onto podium. So we'll have to just wait and see. Like I said, I've been in that situation before when you have a 2v1. You want to be able to do that, but you're fighting two people instead of just one. So that makes your work a lot harder. So again, we'll have to see Pedro Mura now able to get one place over. Oh no! Getting taken out right now by Zevipla. So Pedro Mura getting taken out now, going on to the side of the road. So right there, as the white flag is flying, unfortunately, we'll put him down towards the back. So there goes his hopes of a Heat 1 podium.
Yeah, Pedro Mura tried to send it into the inside of Paddock Hill curve. Unfortunately, Demi Plata had other ideas and also tried to cut into the line with Pedro Mura already being way too far ahead to try and defend that position from. And here comes Dino Filippa. He's swerving, he's crossing the line, and well, relative ease for him, crossing the line in first place. We've got Sokol Javi tailing behind him. Alberto Senao and Zevipla making it a 3-4 for them with Diego Villarreal with one of the best finishes he's had all season, a P5 for him. So great job for Diego here. Gal actually making it in front of Gal Valero.
And looking there, Dino Filippa, also one of those drivers that once you give him some clean room, once he's able to get a little bit of a gap out in first place, he is going to take off with the win. And that's what happened out here in heat number 1 today. So big congratulations to Dino Filippa. He's been slowly climbing up the leaderboards. Like we said, a lot of these things are consistency, and it is absolute consistency out here today from Dino Filippa. So we have him as well as his fellow Argentinian Gaston Culavi. Alberto Senao able to get onto that podium position as well. So the two Rincon Racing drivers, there was a lot of drama going on between them and Pedro Mura, and unfortunately that put Pedro Mura all the way back down. But there's the BenQ session winner, Dino Filippa. It is all smiles today, but now he's going to have to go back to the back and fight his way. Also, Jackson Asenje able to set the fastest lap time during that heat number 1. So we'll definitely have to see as these drivers, we had an insane first couple laps of heat number 1 that led to a lot of incidents. So now that the drivers are gridding back up again, we'll have to see they're getting back on the cold tires, back into it, especially when you don't have a rolling start. We'll have to see. Last heat, one of the drivers stalling out. So here we go, folks. We are moments away from the green flag out here in heat number 2.
Oh, that's not a great launch again for Rafa Benitez. I think he may have missed the start. Timing just a little bit yet again. but he's still holding on to the position. And immediately on paddock kill curve, a little bit of an incident there. I think that was Jackson Resende that got caught, and now he's going to be struggling with Pedro D just tapping him out, and now crashing into Julio Basilico's car. And oh my god, I think that might have been a really unfortunate end to the race. That is actually Gaston Kulhabi ended up in the back there with Leo Mora. No. In fact, it was Leo Mora that ended up being put into the runoff there. So again, a very, very poor start for him, which is really unfortunate. Dino Filippo, our last heat winner, is actually making it slowly to the front of the pack right now. He is contending with a bunch of other drivers, as Zevi Pla and Diego Villarreal, of course, but here comes Guy Valero, one of the fastest drivers we had in AMX, trying to make his way back up to the field. He's in P5 right now, so he's in a pretty good spot, but they're still really packed close together, so something else might happen as he tries to make it past Bruno De Carmo. We're on board with Zevi Pla here, and here comes the incident with Leo Mora here. He's crashing into the side as one of the drivers tries to cut into the line, but didn't notice Leo was there. And as he's trying to get back into the pace, he gets tapped a little bit by, I believe that is the car of Pedro D, and immediately crashing into Julio Basilico's car as well, which pushes him into the runoff and also slows down Julio. So very, very interesting start to the first race. Again, another action-packed start, and I think this driver's gonna cut me a break, man.
Yeah, definitely a lot going on out here, a lot to keep up with, but like we said, that's definitely entertaining for everyone. And also shout out to everyone watching on Twitch and YouTube as well. We love you guys, seeing you out here every single week in, week out. But definitely, yeah, so as we come into lap number 3, Jackson Asenje was able to come out. He had a great start in this heat number 2, and now slowly being able to pull away from Ralph Benitez. But like we said, lap number 3 into this race, so the tires are starting to warm up a little bit, but the amount of smoke coming off those tires from all the drivers right there, they're already pushing it as hard as they possibly can. As we see right now, Dino Filippo about halfway up the pack. Bruno De Carmo now up 3 positions as well. So Bruno De Carmo sitting in 4th place, battling it out with Pedro Muro. So we have nothing but the Brazilians up in that top 4 currently. So we'll have to see. Gael Valero also hasn't had the best in heat number 1, but able to come out here in right now in heat number 2, sitting in 5th place. So he absolutely wants to be able to get back up into podium contention out here.
Yeah, and that rear quarter view from Bruno De Carmo's car locking up at the very final corner really shows you exactly how much these drivers have to push in order to maintain that pace that they want here. As Gael Valero making the pass onto Bruno De Carmo. Bruno De Carmo going a bit wide onto turn 2 there, so giving Gael Valero a lot of space. He's now up in the top 4, breaking the chain of 5 Brazilians all next to each other. The only Frenchman standing in between them. And Gael Valero really on a bit of a redemption charge right now as he's trying to make it past Pedro Mora as well.
So here we see, looks like Jackson Asenje still pulling away even more. So it's a battle for 2nd place between Ralph Benitez, Pedro Mora, Gael Valero, Bruno De Carmo, all those guys right now lining up as we get that beautiful shot of all of the drivers right now forming a pretty decent train. And it looks like still Dino Filippo setting the fastest lap of 51.877. So Dino Filippo is sitting in 7th place right now, but I don't expect him to stay there for very long, as a lot of these drivers towards the front are battling it out. Like you've seen the amount of tire smoke right there, that's where they're losing precious tenths of a second every single lap. So I think that's really what led for Dino Filippo, like we said, the consistency to be able to get into that top spot ultimately in the last heat. We'll have to see, as we're only 5 laps into this thing, so there's still plenty of time for this grid to change up while we're out here. Pedro Mura, though, he was very close, looking like he may have been on podium, and unfortunately getting shunted off the track at the very last lap. Right now he's on podium contention, but he's looking for the win. So we have Brazilian 1, 2, 3. Jackson, as soon as I say that, Pedro Mura going off. Whoa, I don't know what happened if he completely missed the brakes on that one. We'll have to get a replay, but going hard into the barriers, and that looks like that may very well be Pedro Mura's race.
Yeah, that looked like terminal damage, unfortunately, for Pedro Mora's car, so he's going to be out of contention for this podium now. Gael Valero is up into P3, so he now has to fend off Bruno De Carmo and Dino Filippo. However, the gap between Dino Filippo and Bruno De Carmo is pretty substantial as of now, as you can see Gael Valero trying to make a second move onto Ralph Benitez. he was a bit, Benitez is a little bit shaky on the cars itself, and more to the point, these cars, you make the most of the grip that these tires can afford you. You have to keep all 4 tires on the road, because as soon as any one of these tires touches the grass, you just lose grip from it, and then you immediately scrabble way too much speed. As Rafa Benitez just conceding that position. Galvalero makes a move on the inside here as they're coming into turn 2. And Galvalero making that pass look pretty darn textbook, and Rafa Benitez left wide-eyed and bewildered at that pass. And you can see here the picture here, the Pedro Moura crash. Yeah, what happened here? He just completely didn't have any steering at all. Went in way too hard on the Paddock Hill curve. Either his steering died or he just didn't have any steering left. Just understeered into the barrier. Lost the wheel, as a matter of fact, and that was just it for him.
So that's one of those things that definitely out here, real life, that would have absolutely been a yellow flag moment, but that is the beauty of these things of, hey, he was able to get out there. And unfortunately for him, though, as much as we love to see crash reels out on YouTube, it's unfortunate when we have great drivers like that putting up such a great race and it just ending that quick. But like we see, he's still out in the pits. I'm not sure if he'll be able to get that damage fixed in time. Like you said, a wheel missing completely, the front end smashed in, so he may very well be his race. But, well, it looks now he's heading out of the pit exit, so Pedro Moura able to get just enough to get back into this race. So luckily it wasn't terminal, but that does put him all the way in last place. Right now the battle is between Ralph Benitez, Bruno Di Carmo. So once again, these guys fighting for third place. We had that going on all heat number 1, a third place battle. So right now, heat number 2, Bruno Di Carmo, Dino Filippa, also Zevi Pla. So a few really fast drivers not too far behind them as well.
Yeah, and they have to be careful with this particular battle though, because Dino Filippa is about 1.7 seconds behind them, and if they battle too hard and cost both of them valuable speed that they do not want to scrub off, Dino Filippa could easily close that gap between them. However, it does seem like the battle is going to be raging on here, as Galvalero is already on the tail of Jackson Resende here, which means that Jackson Resende is going to be under a considerable amount of pressure, because just behind him, 2 more Brazilians there in the cars, so Benitez and Carmo are going to be hunting him down. You can see the second times tell a very, very wondrous tale of Galvalero just absolutely catching up to the back of Resende.
So like we've seen earlier on, Jackson was able to start slowly getting a gap, but here is one of the other veteran drivers of Guy Valero. Like we said, these two always battling it out. When you see both of them on track, you know it's going to be very interesting. Jackson Senjay, one of the best defenders out here in AMX, but Gael Valero also one of the best guys to overtake, as we've seen him making up time, making up plenty of positions. So definitely a clash of the Titans for first place, but also right here, Ralph Benitez and Bruno Di Carmo getting very, very close. So we'll see if are they going to try and help each other at all? We'll have to wait and see. They've been battling it out pretty good so far. So the battle for third place ensues as they're able to still hold off Dino Filippa so far. So Filippa right now with about a 1.8 second gap. He's trying to push it, but also like we said, with these skinny tires out here that they don't have a lot of grip. These drivers know very well from the last heat as well as qualifying. Okay, I don't want to push it too hard. It's Gael Valero looking to the inside, make a move out here. Will he be able to do it over Jackson Senjay? So right now, side by side, going into turn 1, and beautiful. Gael Valero just able to sweep the nose over Jackson Senjay, but Jackson able to cut back to the inside. Not enough speed out of the corner. So right there, Gael Valero now leading first place over Jackson Senjay.
Yeah, he's not a blacklist driver for no reason, making a jab at delivery that he has. Despite it being on the wrong car, definitely is working in Gavalero's favor, I reckon, actually. Livery does add about 5 horsepower after all, so maybe he used that to his advantage, as Jackson Resende is now trying to claw his way back into that pole position. But Gavallero is slowly pulling away. In fact, he's actually pulling away from P3 and P4 as well, who are now still locked in this battle, but you can notice that they are definitely slowing each other down, because Dino Filippa went from 1.7 seconds to 1.3 seconds over the course of a lap. So they definitely have to be aware of that.
Yeah, so there we have Dino Filippa doing amazing in heat number 1 now, still catching up. So like we said, folks, we're about halfway through this race, and things are definitely heating up. Gael Valero able to make up 8 places, now sitting in P1. Dino Filippo, another driver, has gotten up 9 places from the beginning of this race as well. So a lot of these guys, we know they've been putting absolutely amazing pace out here, as we see that beautiful shot from Bruno de Carmo as well as Ralph Benitez. So these two battling it out for 3rd places. Ooh, a lot of tire smoke coming out from Jackson Senji. So I think that may have been the one thing that really allowed Gael Valero to catch up and make that overtake so soon, is Jackson Senji really pushing it as hard as he possibly can. Like I said, a lot of these guys very used to some of these higher horsepower cars with a lot more downforce. So this is definitely a little bit different than what we have. And speaking of different, make sure everyone tune in for the race coming on later today. Like we said, we're out here at Talladega with the NASCAR NextGen vehicles. So we'll see how many of these drivers head on over to the oval after this race, as well as a lot of other drivers that, you know, maybe trying to put it to them, say, here, all right, I know you guys may be 8,000, 9,000 iRating, but once you get to the oval, it's a whole nother game. So make sure y'all stay tuned for that coming up very shortly. But right now, it is all the battle still going on for 3rd place out here in heat number 2.
Yeah, and Valero is slowly pulling away from Jackson Resende here. Jackson Resende now in a bit of a pinch because he is losing time to the drivers of Bruno de Carmo and Ralph Benitez here. That final corner really is going to be a very knife's edge situation there, because for a short track like Brands Hatch, the initial sector, the start-finish straight at least, is a very substantial elevation changes, and the final corner that leads up to the start-finish straight is a little bit blind, so you can easily misjudge your braking time there, which probably causes you to lose a lot of speed coming in onto the entry, locking up the brakes, locking up the tires and everything. So definitely losing a little bit of time there. But Bruno de Carmo and Ralph Benitez there doing their best to take advantage of this situation. And you can see here, it's really difficult for Jackson Resende to get the nice line into that corner, as you can see on the replay there. Every lap you go around that particular corner, he's just losing tenths of a second.
So like we said, a lot of these guys, they are used to some of the front-wheel drive vehicles coming from the TCR. However, the TCR cars have a bit more power, a bit more downforce. As we see picture right here on the bottom right, Dantas and Posilico, ooh, just right there. We've seen a lot of people trying to cut that corner in, but unfortunately just had a little bit too much speed going there, and that sends both drivers out into the side off the track. So that set them back a little bit more, and now currently we'll see Posilico sitting in that 11th place after that incident. So they're definitely have their work cut out to try and gain a few places, but right now we see Jackson Asenje having to fight off Bruno de Carmo and Ralph Benitez. So Gael Valero now able to get about a 1.7 second gap, so we'll see if he increases that gap, as it looks like the tire wear is starting to come into play for Jackson Asenje. So now he is trying to focus and double down, let these guys try to battle out behind him, but also he knows they're coming for that number 2 spot.
Yeah, a little bit of a pickle here is Jackson Resende there. Valero is going to be pulling away, so he's pretty much got a race in the bag, barring a substantial mistake from him. But here's Jackson Resende. We're on board on his rear bumper cam right now, and Bruno de Carmo is literally breathing down his neck. He's going to be feeling the substantial amounts of pressure, so he has to make sure he gets every corner right in order to be able to defend this position. So we'll see him here. He's going to be a little bit shaky on the loose here, locking up the rear tires, trying to get all the front end to bite into the apex of that corner. Holding it steady for now, but Bruno de Carmo ever waiting for an opportunity that really, if Jackson Resende makes a mistake, they might put both of these cars into the barrier if they're not careful.
And I was looking right there, so it did look like Jackson Asenje adjusting a lot of settings as going from turn to turn. So I'm assuming that he's adjusting his brake bias right there, as Bruno de Carmo able to make that inside move. So right now, Gael Valero, Bruno de Carmo, and Jackson Asenje, your top 3. Like I was saying, so I think the big thing here is, as you're trying to go on through these, really trying to just figure out these cars, a lot of them being so different, not used very much. Brake bias definitely playing in a lot out here, these front-wheel drive vehicles. So as we've seen, some of them locking up the rear tires, some of them you're wearing way too much on the front. So it's definitely a balance of really an art out here to try and just figure out what can these cars do, how much can I push them, and Unfortunately, sometimes you go a little bit over the limit and get sent off the track or sent into another driver. But right here, seems like Gael Valero definitely has figured it out, as he's already almost a 2.5 second gap over second place. So Jackson Sanjay now fighting off for third place between him and Ralph Benitez. So his fellow countrymen right here putting on excellent pace. It was the battle between Ralph Benitez and Bruno De Carmo nearly all heat long, but now Jackson Sanjay doing his best to hold on to the podium.
Yeah, and while all of this is going on, Dino Filippo is now right on the case of these three cars in front of him. Lost a 1.3 second gap, now down to less than half a second. So he's definitely waiting for an opportunity to strike. And barring any mistakes from the drivers in front of him, he could look to seize advantage of him and end up as probably the big winner of this particular race in session. And on the topic of getting used to these cars, especially, it's definitely all well and good, but it's very hard to say that you've got to handle the car, especially solely into the race, if you're still adjusting settings. And for these drivers especially, it's going to definitely be a test of whether or not they'll be able to make do with what they have. As Jackson Resende is just, you can see every time we pan to the rear quarter view of his camera, we just see his rear tires is locking up. So he's definitely not really feeling it this time around. But as long as he holds on to this position, got 4 laps left to go, as I may have cursed him a little as he goes really wide on the exit there. Actually still holding on to that position. So as long as he can keep up this pace all the way to the end, podium, not too bad.
And speaking of front-wheel drive vehicles, a lot of people, make sure y'all tune in tomorrow as well. So we do have the return of AMX 0 and AMX 20 coming up tomorrow. So expect those to be some great battles as well. We always get to see some new faces every now and then going into the AMX 0 races. So if you want to join in on those, there is no cap for that. So anyone is free to join. There's no entry fee as well for AMX 0. So if you just want to get your feet wet out here and able to battle against some of the guys, against some new guys as well, we'll be back out here tomorrow for AMX 0. So make sure to head over to amxrace.com and you can get all the details as well as sign up there. But today, man, this has been absolute just action, bumper to bumper, all race long, all day long. So right now we'll have to see Jackson Asenje. There's only a few laps left, so I think he's not really focusing as much as to get back up into that second place position as he really is just having to worry about defending. So I think right now he's just going to be doing a lot of mirror driving, trying to make no mistakes and keep Ralph Benitez right behind him the entire way. So now we are in lap 21 of 23. I expect things to start heating up just a little bit more as, looking like Bruno De Carmo up there up front, going just a little bit wide. So these drivers now feel the pressure, brakes locking up. It's still anyone's game out here as Gael Valero able to get a significant lead now up to about 3 seconds.
Yeah, and not just this race, but the next race later on is also going to be a nail-biter, I would say. We're on, of course, the NASCAR Cup cars on Talladega, so it's definitely going to be a banger. Stick around for that. However, what we're seeing on screen right now is going to be the last battle probably between these three cars, as Dino Filippo is still trying to make his way past these two cars right now, but Jackson Resende doing a pretty good job of defending thus far. An ultimate lap as we're coming up to Paddock Hill right now. Jackson Resende is going to be a bit brave there, braking a little bit late, entering there, keeping a nice tight line, however, still manages to keep all 4 tires on the road as Bruno De Carmo maybe also feeling a little bit of the pressure here. Closing in is Jackson Resende and Benitez onto his car right now. But Bruno De Carmo is not able to catch up to Gael Valero. He is not out of the woods yet.
So like we said, Gael Valero looks like he has this in the bag as long as he can keep it clean. Bruno De Carmo right now only about half a second over Jackson Asenje, and the battle for third place is where it's been all second half of this heat going on. So you can see the absolute look right there is Dino Filippo trying to look for a move over Ralph Benitez. So right now that's a place that's really hard to be for Ralph Benitez as the white flag flies. You have one driver that you're trying to overtake, but you're also trying to worry about the guy right behind you. So Dino Filippo doing whatever he can. Did great heat number 1 and now heat number 2. Still able to make up 9 positions. So he's made up the most positions out of any driver. Gael Valero being second, making up 8 positions. So we'll just have to see, like I said, a lot of these guys right now as they're going bumper to bumper. The pressure is on the final lap.
Yeah, you don't have very much room. In fact, you've got less than half a lap to make something happen here. And Jackson Resende is still doing a pretty good job battling. That final corner is going to be a the big decider on whether or not he gives up this position. As they're coming into the entry right now, we're about approaching the last corner of the race. And Jackson Rossetti keeps it nice and tidy, nice and clean. And it looks like he might just keep third place on the podium. But your man of the hour, here comes Guy Valero crossing the start-finish straight. And first place, well-deserved from him. Bruno Carmo finishing in second with Jackson Rossetti holding on to that position all the way until the end. Ralph Benitez and Dino Filippo unable to make any headway. And here comes Alberto Sanao, Gaston Kohavi also crossing the line. Diego Villarreal, not as great a finish as he did last heat, but still a very commendable position from him nonetheless. In P8, Pedro Dean, P9, Zevi Pla, and Evandro Dantas. Zevi Pla, unfortunately, not able to replicate the same results he had in the last heat, crossing the line in 10th. Here comes Giulio Basilico. Not a great heat 2 after what was a pretty decent heat 1 finish from him. But yeah, this is how it is. When you first take part AMX, you're going to feel the pressure here. And here it is, Leo Mora missing his front end almost completely, crossing the line finally. Pedro Mora also just wrapping up the race on the track. And well, that's it. That's all she wrote for this particular race at least.
So there we go, folks. Like we mentioned earlier, just because we have low horsepower cars does not mean that the driving is going to be any less intense, as we have absolute veterans out here showing what they can do. But a big congratulations to the winners of today. So like we said in that second heat, Gael Valero, once he was able to get up front, just like heat number 1 from Dino Filippo, both of those drivers absolutely veteran, amazing out here. But that is heat number 2, your Ben Q session winner, Gael Valero, a man that is no stranger to the podium and no stranger to being on top of the podiums. Also setting the fastest lap. So coming in second, though, we do have Bruno De Carmo, who also put on a great battle out here today, as well as Jackson Assange able to hold on to that third place position. And now Ralph Benitez, 4th, Dino Filippo in 5th, Alberto Sanao, 6th place, Gaston Culavi coming in 7th, Diego Villarreal in 8th, Pedro Dean coming in 9th place, Zevi Pla coming in at 10th, Evandro Dantas 11th, Giulio Posilico, the newcomer, holding it off in 12th place, as well as we have Leo Mura and Pedro Mura to round out the standings. So quite a bit of incidences going on in heat number 1, heat number 2 that definitely put people where we didn't really expect them to be. Some great drivers getting caught up in those incidents, unfortunately setting them back. But we'll have to wait and see, as like we said, coming up very soon, we're going to be heading to Talladega. But for right now, Damon, if you could explain that in just a few words, man, I mean, it's still even hard to just gather my thoughts from everything that went on during that. But what was your highlight of the race number 1 today?
Well, you asked me to describe it in a few words. I can describe it to you in one, and that is, of course, chaos. I mean, we've seen a lot of stuff happening in the early game. Kind of petered off later on, but it was still pretty intense bumper-to-bumper action all the way into the end. And again, this is the sort of stuff I've come to expect from AMX. It's always been really close racing. It's always been really intense. It's always been really competitive. And I'm definitely looking forward to sticking around all the way until the end of the season, as you guys at home should as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, not just sticking around for the end of the season. So we're about halfway through. Like we said, anyone that wants to get in on these races, we'd love to see you out here. We have a few people that I know have been coming in the Discord. So also make sure to hop on the Discord, see what some of the drivers have to say, see what the community has to say. So I expect a few new people coming in for the second race of the day. But also follow all of our social medias, not just Discord as well. As head over to the race. We got the full schedule going on. So here very shortly, we're going to be heading across the pond back to the USA of Talladega, one of the most famous ovals in the world, probably the most dangerous oval in the world. So we'll have to see how many of these road racers can show up and put on a show, as well as how many of these oval guys can try and stick it to some of these pros out here. Make sure to not go anywhere. We're live on Twitch and YouTube. We will be back very shortly. Signing off, AMX Season 5. Don't go anywhere, folks. Things are about to get spicy.
See you in 20 minutes. car. He's gone up. He's been tapped, and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin! Oh,
and
no!
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lawlon does have the inside track for the Swiss left. If he's able to make that pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean, and they're coming to the right hand, and this is it. Chris Lawlon seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lawlon takes it.
Right there, Vic Miranda, Pedro Zuba into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone off into the barriers coming up to the cutting.
David Todd making his way back up has already climbed 7 positions.
Oh, I spoke too soon there. Sandy goes up.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Todd passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain. Up the mountain, we have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to lead? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Todd right now going into the pit lane.
Aguilar, he's gone up, he's been tapped, and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin! Oh,
and
no!
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lawler does have the inside track for the Swiss left. If he's able to make that pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean as they come into the right hand. And this is it. Chris Lawler seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lawler takes it.
Vic Miranda, Pedro Zuba into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone off into the barriers, coming up to the cutting.
David Todd making his way back up, has already climbed 7 positions.
Oh, I spoke too soon there. Sandy goes up.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Todd passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain. Up the mountain, we have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to lead? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Todd right now going into the pit lane. We're out here, AMX out at the Oval again, back in Sweet Home, Alabama. That's right, folks. We're out here at Talladega Speedway in the NASCAR NextGen vehicles. Welcome back, everyone. AMX 5, AMX Season 5. I am Kevin, and joining me alongside, we have Damon out here as well. Damon, it's been great close battles all day long so far, but in character of switching things up a little bit today, we're back out at the Oval.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I've casted an oval race. The last few times we were on a NASCAR track, it was always the Cup layout. So definitely looking forward to some full throttle, pedal to the metal action here. And of course, we have a very, very packed grid this time around. So definitely looking forward to seeing how that goes after what just happened in the last race. And yeah, I'm really excited for it.
So that's what we love to see. Like we said, it's going to be a grid heating up today. We already see a few drivers out there. But before we get into that, make sure to follow all of our social media on amxrace.com. Get the full schedule and get yourself signed up to come in here and get into these races. But before we head over into our qualifying session to check up on our drivers, we have a few things to go over. Like I said, we're nearly halfway through this season. The time's been flying by. We've been out here since May 25th, and we're going all the way through August 18th. We have a season prize pool of $15,000 and next level racing gear. The race goes as following. We have our 20-minute qualifier, followed by a top 15 reverse grid, going into heat number 1 of 20 minutes, followed by another reverse grid going into that second heat. So for all of our drivers out there, so we do require driver cams. If you want to get involved, you can get the link via our AMX Discord or on the website. Payouts are done in balances over $100 paid out each month. Once you hit that $100 threshold, expect some money to head your way. We're here every weekend on Saturdays and Sundays. Make sure, like I said, if you want to get in on the action or get the full schedule, you can head over to amxrace.com at any time. We have all of the details posted there, as well as results, leaderboards, everything else. Every Saturday and Sunday starting at 5:50 p.m. GMT, followed by another race followed at 7:20 p.m. We do have every other week this season, switching it up. Starting on Sundays, AMX 0 is back this season at 5:50 p.m., followed by the all-new AMX 20 at 7 p.m. So AMX 20 been heating up. That will be this weekend, so make sure to also stay tuned in tomorrow for some more great racing. Our prize pool for AMX 5 is as follows. We have a qualifying followed by the heat number 1, heat number 2. First place walking away with $15, second gets 10, and third walks away with 9, all the way down into 15th place. And once we hop into the heats, it gets a little bit more for the fastest lap, earning an extra $2 with a total prize pool per race of $250. Like I said, a lot of these races, make sure that you check your iRating because you do have to have a 2000 road iRating to get on some of these. We're changing it up a little bit today for the ovals, so you may notice a few guys out here that we'll just have to wait and see once we get into that. But as we go on, we do have our lovely friends over at Next Level Racing. So the championship winner also walking away, like we said, some of those AMX prizes, getting that GT Elite beautiful cockpit as well as a nice seat to go along with it. So one of the best sim rigs out there. Thank you again, once again, to Next Level Racing. So you're in the lead for the championship. Expect to hopefully begin this at the end of the season. But like we said, we are out here at Talladega in the NASCAR NextGen. So, Damon, this is an absolutely great car, great, famous racetrack. Tell folks a little bit more about what we have going on out here today.
I will do just that, Kevin. And yes, as you mentioned before, we are on the Talladega Superspeedway, one of the most well-known ovals in the U.S., in the city of Lincoln. Opened all the way back in 1969. The oval is about 2.6 miles long, which means that the Cup cars, the NASCARs this time around will be running at their full power. One of the more dangerous ovals, especially because the start-finish straight actually tapers off quite a little bit compared to the rest of the track, and it's also quite narrow, quite tight, so you definitely have to slow down just a little bit to make sure you don't end up in the barriers. And yeah, it's definitely going to be one of the most intense ovals that we're going to be seeing here at AMX. And the cars that we will be taking on this particular oval are, of course, on screen right now is the NASCAR NextGen series cars. Very powerful, very heavy as well. Rear-wheel drive, 670 horsepower, courtesy of a 358 cubic inch V8, carrying all that power to the rear wheels through a sequential 5-speed gearbox. So definitely one of relatively crude in terms of power delivery, but we're definitely going to be able to see some really high performance action here with these cars. And with that out of the way, I'm taking it back to you, Kevin.
Awesome. So we're about to head into qualifying, see where our drivers are sitting. Like you mentioned, so out here at Talladega, especially in the NASCAR NextGen, not only these vehicles, but a lot of vehicles in the past. This is probably one of the most famous racetracks, as well as being one of the most infamous racetracks. Most notably back in 2002, which is known among NASCAR fans as the big one. Back in 2002, we had a 31-car incident that ultimately led to a lot of teams really just seeing, okay, is this getting too dangerous, as well as a lot of other races previously, all the way back to 1987, which we do have those vehicles as well in iRacing. That was the last year before they started switching it up to the next vehicle after that. So a lot of drivers out here. We also had Rusty Wallace, one of the most famous NASCAR drivers out here, having a horrible accident. But nonetheless, adding to that list, hopefully we able to see a lot of clean racing. But like we said, it is Talladega. Anything happens out here. As right now, we're on board. It looks like Chris Lullum able to set the top qualifying time so far. So we have a lot of people out here looking down the road. I know we had a lot of Team Redline drivers joining us out here today. So big kudos to all of them, as well as what we've seen earlier on and in the previous seasons as well. Some of these names coming back. We had Diego Villarreal, who was here last season, the whole season for AMX NASCAR, as well as a few newcomers. I see Austin Runkle out there, Tim State from the US. We have Connor Healy as well joining us in here. So Connor Healy, for those of you who don't know, absolute alien out in the oval. So I expect this to be one of the best races all season long. So like we said, Chris Lolum up in that first place position, but here's one of the Brazilians, Gabriel Crefta, out here showing that he is ready to fight off Team Redline. So it's almost looking like it's going to be half of Team Redline versus Brazil out here. So we got a lot of drivers from all over, a full stacked grid out here today.
Yeah, and I can't help but to draw my attention to the one name on the grid I didn't expect to see running NASCARs here this time around. It is, of course, Max Verstappen, the man on your screen right now in the Team Redline colors. And I'm unnaturally nervous for this particular instance. I know I shouldn't be, because here he's just another racer. But yeah, it's going to be a really packed race, very intense, and definitely looking forward to it. Chris Lolum as well, one of the drivers I know is extremely quick. Also from Team Redline here, we did see him actually take one race off the AMX 20 and add it to his notch of race victory. So it's going to be really competitive, I can guarantee that.
Like we said, a lot of the Team Redline drivers we do normally see out on the road, so definitely going to be an interesting race. So we see, as well as out there, Luke Bennett. Who else do we see on the grid? We have a few drivers that were here earlier today. We have Evandro Dantas, Pedro Muro, Gael Valero. So those guys out here also trying to show what they can do out on the oval. So it's going to be very, very interesting. We have not even halfway through this qualifying session, so expect a lot of these drivers. And one thing for some of the people that were here out last season, Connor Healy. So he has not set a lap time yet, but one of the biggest things we've seen last season when we had our AMX or the NASCAR class, Connor Healy, very characteristic of him out on these super speedways to wait until the very last moment only to take pole position. So we'll see if he can repeat that out here. I have no doubt in my mind in racing against this man last season. So again, right now that top spot is still Chris Lolum, as we see right now. Evandro Dantas currently in 8th place. Bruno DeCarmo just setting his best lap, puts him up into 7th place. So a lot of new faces out here, a lot of people like you mentioned. Max Verstappen, we did not expect to see out here on the oval at all.
Yeah, a little bit of a different discipline from what I've normally seen him do, but I have all the faith in him that he will definitely be part of a group that delivers some fantastic racing. And of course, as you mentioned before, we have a bunch of racers that are also coming into this race from the last one. Dasser Resende, Gael Valero, Pedro Moura, Evandro Dantas, Bruno DeCarmo, just to name a few. And yeah, as you mentioned before, again, Connor Healy. Every time I cast a NASCAR class race, he's definitely always near the top of the leaderboard. And as you mentioned before, always waits until the 11th hour to set a blisteringly quick lap time. But might be a little bit more competitive this time around. As you can see on your timing board right now, all the drivers are within 2/10 of each other, which is probably the closest time difference I've ever seen in terms of qualifying.
Yeah, right here. So seeing a lot of these guys in the 53s. We'll have to see. I mean, that's really, really pushing it out here. So we have the gap between most of our drivers less than 1/10 of a second. So right there, Jackson Asenge, Diego Villarreal right on that 1/10 of a second outside from the very top spot. So we'll have to see, as now your new leader, Gabriel Crefta, able to best Chris Lolum in the Ford, now setting a lap time of 53.034. So only 1,000 faster than Chris Lolum, but that is just enough for him to be able to get out here. So that too, like we mentioned, it's a little bit weird out here seeing. So being a fellow commentator, we do have Luke Crane, one of the best commentators out there, normally out with the Team Redline stream. So you don't see him as much on the racetrack as you do up in the booth. So big shout out Luke Crane. It feels a little bit awkward commentating on another commentator, but nonetheless, we're all out here having great fun, and that's what I expect this race to be. Nothing but fun, probably a few crashes. After all, it is Talladega, so we're gonna have to see if we have our own big one out here today. But right now, Jackson Asenge, who we also seen earlier, currently sitting in 12th place.
Yeah, and the difference between 12th place and first place is so immense that one good lap could propel you all the way to the top of qualifying. And as we mentioned before, this track is a pretty dangerous one, of course, because of how the start finish straight tapers on, narrows a little bit when you're crossing that line. And so it's going to be a little bit of a contest to see who gets the best line coming into that right now, as we are on board with Bennett here. And it's really tough to call right now because we still got less than 8 minutes of qualifying laps, so these drivers could still set a bunch of quick laps, and it's really hard to tell who's going to come out on top. So far, Gabriel Krefta is ahead, but by thousandths of a second, which is almost unheard of in terms of oval. But over the course of the entire race, that 2,000ths of a second could swell up to be a much bigger lead than it is. And for cars like this, on a track like this, you also have other factors to consider, like tire wear. When do you want to use your tires to its fullest potential? Do you want to use it all the way to the beginning, trying to pull out a lead, or wait until the very end, conserve your tires, and then go for one last sprint to the finish line? So strategy on ovals is actually pretty complex, and it will be interesting to see how these drivers do it.
And looking out here too, so apologies if I said Luke Bennett earlier. I was looking at Luke Bennett's name. I mean, Luke Crane. So if I got that incorrect earlier, my apologies. We have two Lukes out here from Team Redline, but Luke Crane, the official commentator for the Team Redline, that we've seen him out here as well. If you guys want some of the best racing, I suggest after this race, go back through AMX YouTube channel and go look up The Real Racers Never Quit. That has been one of the most fun, one of the best sim racing series that I've seen. But nonetheless, we're out here. So we have a little over 6 minutes left in this qualifying session. As we had seen the shot earlier, Connor Healy looking menacingly on the side of the track, just waiting for his moment to strike. So that may be a little bit of intimidation factor. I've been able to talk to Connor Healy in the past, as now it looks like he is still out there. May have taken a little bit of a break. So like I said, part of this, I know the actual strategy. I don't want to give away his strategies while everyone is out there listening. But I've been able to talk to him a little bit last season, been able to make friends with him just a little bit. So I definitely have seen his strategy. This is part of it. Also part of it, hey, maybe the intimidation factor. But like I said, we'll have to wait and see, as we have about 5 minutes left, when he's going to get on track to hopefully be able to best all of these drivers like he was doing all last season long. But right now we have Krefta, Lolum, and Thompson, your top three out here at Talladega.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've asked you this before, Kevin, but I want to get your opinion on something, especially when it comes to these cars, because there's only three shells. Do you have a particular favorite shell of car?
You know what? I am a Chevy guy, so I'm always one of those of always the Chevy vehicles, no matter what generation of car it is. That is just my favorite out here. So I'm a little bit biased, but definitely, hey, here we go, guys. Chevy all the way. So, you know, we only have a couple out here, though, so it does look like there are quite a few Toyotas out on the grid today. So, I mean, we're all pretty balanced all together, but definitely we'll have to see. And like I said, none of these cars are faster than any of the other ones. It all comes down to driver skill out here.
Yeah, and we're definitely looking forward to how the heat is going to go underway once we get to the ring. The race start is always the most important, as is going to be the final stretch as well, when all the trains have pretty much solidified their position on the track. And again, for NASCAR specifically, on super speedways, drafting is the most important thing on an oval. This is not subjective. It is an objective fact that if you're not in a draft, you are immediately slower than everyone else. So definitely you're going to have to be looking out for that, seeing how the trains form and whether or not they'll be able to stay in the trains, avoid any major incidents, and give us some really close bumper-to-bumper action.
And for a lot of folks, so right there, it looks like we almost had a tie. So that is Gabriel Krefta now besting of his lap. So it looks like 53.034. So Gabriel Krefta, Chris Lolum right now battling it back and forth. They still have a few minutes to see who is going to keep with that top time. But Krefta, he's still holding on to that first place position. So you see the double purple right there. that is registering as currently as tied right now. So we have it 0.033 and 0.034, but iRacing timing, they do have the exact same. So that might have been even past the thousandth of a second how close they were there. As right now, Krefta able to best his own lap, now setting him well into first place, 53.026. So the man to beat out here today, the Brazilian Gabriel Krefta.
Wow, that was amazing. He trimmed off nearly 7 thousandths of a second away from his time, and really, when you're going full throttle on a course like this, it's kind of hard to shave that much time off. And here comes Melo here. He actually tied with Chris Lolum for his second fastest time on the grid. So he is jumping up to P2 right now. He's definitely, you can see him on camera just cheering and shouting. He's definitely going to be happy with that result, as we're slightly over 2 minutes left in qualifying. And really, it's going to be down to a last-ditch effort by some of these drivers to see whether or not they'll be able to set their fastest time now.
And there too, we had Max Verstappen also getting a better lap time than his previous, setting him up to 6th place. So like we said at the beginning of the thing, it looks like it's probably going to be Team Redline versus the Brazilian drivers out here today. So a lot of the Brazilian drivers, some of these guys are on sports teams that compete against each other. Some of them are independent, but nonetheless, it's definitely going to be Team Brazil versus Team Redline. But like we said out here, the Australian one of the oval, we have Connor Healy, who last season came in second in the championship, but I have a good feeling that he would have been able to win it, but unfortunately had to miss several races during that end of the season. That put him back down. But like we said, Connor Healy getting ready to go, getting his outlapped right now. Luke Bennett as well. So it's definitely going to be one for the books. Luke Bennett able to best his time now, also sitting in that 4th place position. So we have a lot of the Team Redline drivers now getting up into the top spots. But like we said, we do have that reverse grid coming up. So the guys up front will have to battle their way, which isn't too hard out here at the super speedways. Now we see Connor Healy able to get up into 4th place position. So not quite the lap that he has, but like we said, there's still less than a minute to go. The last few drivers coming across the line, trying to best their times. Few of them, Melo, unfortunately not able to. Max Verstappen now sitting in 7th place, looking to see if he can get in that final lap. So here we have the onboard of the number 33 Formula One world champion. Let's see how he holds out here in the oval today.
Yeah, we're on board with him as he's about to finish up his lap right now. We're looking at the timing boys right now. You can definitely see that so far no driver has been able to improve on their current time, and Connor Healy there were a brilliant drive to propel him all the way up to P4 on the grid. Definitely wishes they could do better, but I think you're going to be pretty happy with that result, as we're now rapidly approaching the end of qualifying. Will Max be able to cross the line in time? It doesn't seem like it, so he won't be able to set a new fastest lap, which puts him at P7 on the grid. He'll be pretty lucky, however, because P7 on the grid pretty much guarantees that you'll all start at almost the same position when the actual race begins. So, Connor Healy there, P4, but talk of the town right now are the top 3 drivers. We have, of course, there Gabriel Krefta as well as Chris Lolum just behind him. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what's going to happen. Lap 1 is going to be super important.
So out here, as close as all of these drivers were in qualifying, normally for a NASCAR race like this, you always want to be towards the front of the grid. But like we said, we have a top 15 reverse grid, as well as how close these drivers are. You can see as the times come up right now, your Ben Q session winner, Gabriel Krefta, with a 53.025, just absolutely blazing out here for qualifying, followed by 2nd place, Pedro Melo. 3rd, we got Chris Lolum. In 4th, Connor Healy. Luke Bennett in 5th. Josh Thompson coming in 6th place. Max Verstappen in 7th. Avandro Dantas 8th. 9th, Bruno DeCarmo 10th place. We have Pedro Moura, followed by Gael Valero in 11th. Luke Crane in 12th. Jackson is NJ 13th. Diego Villarreal 14th place. Austin Runkle in 15th. And rounding it out, we have Tim State sitting in the 16th position. So one thing that I should mention out here, though, folks, is with the reverse grid, those guys are going to definitely have to fight their way back, so strategy will come into play. But with as many Team Redline drivers as we have out here today, that can definitely change the tide. You always want to have people working with you out here on these super speedways, working in the draft, and ultimately see if we can form some of those lines going up. So big difference out here though for AMX. This is still a sprint race. So we have Austin Runkle out there right now on pole position as the guys start warming up. The pace car is out on the field. Definitely going to be a change of pace out here for a lot of these drivers.
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever seen this many red and black cars on the grid as I have today. But of course, Team Redline pretty much almost sending the whole fleet here. And it's definitely going to be shaping up to be a bit of a slobber knocker here. We've got 16 drivers on the grid for NASCAR, and we all know what that means. It's going to be bumper to bumper, full throttle all the way until the end here. As we're going around the track right now, of course, just before the pace car enters the pit lane, do you have any predictions you want to make early on? I'm just spitballing here right now.
Oh man, don't put me on the spot like that. I mean, I don't know. It's so hard to say out here. Like we said, we've seen some drivers that we know are ridiculously quick. We've seen how qualifying went. It's really hard. Like I said, I'm not going to make any predictions, to be completely honest. I have a few people out here that I've spoken to off stream that I'm really hoping they win, but at the same time, I want some of these new guys to come out here and win. But at the same time, hey, you know, it's definitely no prediction. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, well, that's racing for you. You never know what's going to happen during the actual race itself. So, before the pace car enter the pits, I think it's best for you as a homegrown US native to fly this off for the start.
Oh, absolutely. So now you can see as we're rounding into turns 3 and turn 4, the beautiful Talladega banking, one of the steepest bankings in all of NASCAR, as well as one of the most interesting tracks as we come back here onto the tri-oval. The start-finish line is at the very end of the tri-oval versus most of the tracks where it's right in the middle. So if someone gets a jump, we could very well see penalties, but I don't expect that. I expect all these drivers out here, veteran drivers, as we're moments away from going green. But I have to say it, boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys, out here, AMX Season 5, Talladega, and we are off. So great start from all of our drivers. Austin Runkle able to start pulling away. But like we said, folks, out at the super speedways, even though you pull away right away, it's about getting that top spot and working with the other drivers. We have the draft, a lot of bump drafting going on out here today. Let's see what happens through lap number 1 as we're starting to fall in line 2 by 2. The drivers come out of turn number 2 onto the back straight. Luke Crane able to get up to 4th place. So you have these drivers now possibly going 3 wide, but you don't want to hold that on too much going into turn number 3.
Yeah, you can see the train's starting to form right now. They are going 3 wide, as you said, but it's going to taper off a little bit. Oh, car just lost control there. I think that was, Jackson Rossetti, he just went off. Oh, trying to rejoin the track, but sliding all the way back onto the exit yet again. And he's almost entering the pit lane this time around. He's not going to be too happy with the result. I wonder what happened. He probably just lost control of the car, but that is going to be Jackson Rossetti completely out of the train. He's going to have a nightmare of a time trying to keep up with the rest of the pack.
So there we have Talladega is taking its first victim. Luckily, he didn't end up into the wall. He went on to the infield, so there's still plenty of time to get back in here, and we'll have to see. And like we said, this is still a sprint race out here for AMX, so we're all white flags going the entire time, so all green flags, sorry. So don't expect that yellow flag to come out anytime soon, folks. This is very similar if you're a fan of iRacing NASCAR. Very similar to the Draft Master Series, where it's a sprint race on the biggest tracks out here. Like we said right now, it looks like Luke Crane falling down. He's in 12th position. So definitely now a lot of these drivers trying to go 3 wide. So you really want to get towards the front of the pack. But a lot of the drivers that are very, very familiar to NASCAR will know, okay, really just try to slot in, try to get at least a few drafting partners. So like I said right here, as we see the number 7 vehicle right there slotting back in. So that's Tim State. So Tim State in the pink car in a sea of black and red line drivers. But right now, Evandro Dantas leading the way with Bruno DeCarmo.
Yeah, and as we talked about it before, the track is pretty wide that you can go 3 wide here. But if you ever get on board with one of these drivers, would you like you guys to see just how little space these cars actually have to maneuver. If you go too far out or too wide and there's a car in the way, there's going to be a big crash, and almost always there's no chance to avoid it. We have Max Verstappen here off, running up the P4, heading over the red line. Oh, him staying there. I think he flipped it a little bit too hard on the exit, got into the infield, and now he's going to be completely out of it. He's going to be stuck behind. Pedro Melo is also behind with Gabriel Krefter, Connor Healy rounding up the back of the pack right now. But as you can see, the story of the hour, Team Redline drivers are pretty much holding up the top half of the pack right now. So far, Evandro Danta still holding on to the lead while they're forming these 3-lane trains here. But these drivers have to be very, very careful to stay in their own lane, because as soon as you swerve out, ooh, it's not going to be a good time for any of them.
So right there you see the number 15 of Josh Thompson leading that middle line. But that's one of those things out here, especially Talladega, Daytona, 2 places. You normally don't want to be trying to go 3 wide through those corners. You want to try to get 2 wide. A lot of these drivers, once they start forming that middle line, that's where things can get a little bit hectic. But like we said, a lot of these guys are pro road race drivers, so they're definitely know how close they can get. So I'm sure even in the qualifying and some of the practice rounds, they found out real close. How close can I get to these other drivers? How much can I push it before getting into it? But definitely, a lot of these, you normally want to get on that bottom line out at a lot of super speedways, but with the draft, that top line, definitely a viable place to be. So that's where you usually see a lot of people, the strategy, trying to set up a lot of good runs up on the top line, only to be able to dive in once you come out of either turn 2 or turn number 4. But like we said, out here, Talladega being a little bit different than most tracks. Instead of the start finish line being right here in the middle of the tri-oval, it is towards the end, so they have a little bit of a drag race being able to go on as well. I'm sure we'll have to see what happens towards the end of the race, but right now it is all Evandro Dantas leading the pack. Right behind him we have Bruno De Carmo as well as Gael Valero. So those guys, I know Team Redline, like I said, you always want to have your teammates out here. It helps tremendously, but that also puts a bit of a target on you at the back when you have that many teammates out here. So not only are these the Brazilian drivers out here working together today, but we have the likes of Gael Valero getting in there. So I feel like this is more a race of all of Team Redline versus our normal AMX drivers that are here week in and week out.
Yeah, and you can see just how densely packed this train is right now. So any wrong move could send any of these cars into the barrier and possibly take one or even more drivers out of it as well. We're on board with Chris Nolan right now. He's all smiles as he's still holding on to that P5 position, trying to work with his Team Redline teammates to make sure that they get the edge on this competition. But of course, we have Evandro Dantas and Bruno De Carmo and Gael Valero trying to put a damper on these races. And I'm slurring my words right now because every time I see these cars and they're so close to one another, I get really, really scared.
So right now we have that train coming on the inside. Whoa, a little bit of push to the outside right there. That looks like, oh, is that Diego Villarreal getting squirrely? And oh no, into Connor Healy. Connor Healy goes into the wall, back on the track. So that may be very well doing it for Diego Villarreal. And like we said, folks, there's no yellow flags coming out on this one. So unfortunately, one of the best drivers out here today, Connor Healy, also getting caught up in that incident. There was really not much room for him to go anywhere. That's going to put him out of the draft. So that is where you do not want to be. Once the pack starts walking away and you get out of the draft, you might as well call it quits out here. Like we said, very similar to the Draft Master style rules of you really want to be in the front. We see Diego Villarreal right there getting behind. It looks, just a little bit, and towards the outside, getting clipped just a little bit. So he checked up. And unfortunately, that looks like that might have been Luke Crane just giving him a little bit of a tap there. And that was just enough to unsettle the vehicle and then send it into another driver, send it into the wall, spin back out on the track. So we'll have to see. But right now, the 3 drivers up front doing their best to work together. Evandro Dantas, Bruno De Carmo, and Gael Valero trying to get away from the rest of the pack and hopefully secure that podium.
Yeah, and we all have to be very aware of the fact that these are rear-wheel drive cars. Oh, bit of a love tap there going on. I think that was Runkle that he probably careened a little bit into the side of Luke Bennett's car there. Luckily, both cars managed to get out unscathed, but again, too close for comfort. And really, really, you have to be aware of the space here. And going back to my point that these cars, big power, big torque, going all the way to the rear wheels, angles, you really don't want to end up overcooking it at any point on this track, because if you spin, there's almost no way you can recover it.
Right here we have to see a beautiful move going to the outside, so Max Verstappen able to set that coming out of turn number 4, now going wide. So we see right here going out of the line, we'll have to see how many drivers he has, but able to slot it right back in. So really right there, that's one thing that you'll see a lot of this is, as much as you want to try and get to the outside and make that pass, once you have a 3-car draft in front of you, it's enough to carry enough speed out of turns number 2 and 4, right out of the banking. But unfortunately, once you hit the straight, as we can see here, not able to get past Gael Valero. But like we said, Max Verstappen with his teammates right behind him. We have Luke Bennett giving him the push. So if we're able to get 2 trains of 3 side by side, that is where we're going to start seeing a lot of this, as well as you have to keep into consideration going on. Some of these lap drivers that had some of the incidents earlier on is definitely going to play. Hopefully these guys get out of the way before, because that train is coming in hot right behind them.
Yeah, as a back marker, you definitely don't want to be an obstacle in the road, especially when there's not very much room to maneuver here. And Max Verstappen actually pulling ahead now into pole position with help from his teammate here, Luke Bennett. They're both going to be able to take that position away from Evandro Dantas and Bruno De Carmo, but they are coming out to a back marker right now. Have to navigate through them safely, and Max Verstappen just cutting off the train at the front. Now he's at the forefront of it, and he's taking over that draft right now. Evandro Dantas and Bruno De Carmo trailing behind him, and you can see just really how much control you need to have over these cars to stay in your lane.
So right there, that's absolutely beautiful textbook move, going from the outside, able to cut down onto the inside line. So unfortunately though, that does leave your teammates to hang out to dry just a little bit, as now they're going to have to look for room to either catch up or to try and slot into it. So right now, with the amount of cars that we have, you see Diego Villarreal right there back trying to get into the draft. He is a lap down, as well as several other drivers from an incident earlier on. So right now, Max Verstappen, he does have his teammates right behind him, but he's letting Evandro Dantas be able to give him a little bit of the bump draft. So we'll have to see Max Verstappen, a lot of people coming out here for the Formula One World Champion. This is definitely outside of his realm of expertise, but one thing that we've seen, no matter where, even for a lot of the 24-hour races, no matter where it is, this man eats, sleeps, lives racing, no matter what type of racing, and he is proving that out here on the track today.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen all the news stories about him just reading racing and all his, and any chance he gets, he just gets onto his sim rig if he's not racing in the Formula One car. And yeah, you can definitely see the experience is showing for him here. He's still holding up the front of the train. However, a lot of cars are still trying to make it past him, but they're going to have to bide their time. We're a little over the halfway point of the race right now. He just has to hold on, not make any mistakes, or have faith in his fellow drivers not to make any mistakes as well. We saw the picture-in-picture earlier of Chris Lolum and Luke Crane having that incident where Luke Crane actually got forced into the barrier. They're suffering pretty intense damage. So he's back into the pits, having to repair. Already went out, but he's out of the rat race right now. So we've got 7 cars on your screen just vying for that top position.
So right here, I'll say, as well as the running joke from Team Redline, knowing that there is the Austrian Grand Prix happening this weekend, you know, it is very great for this Team Redline to really let their drivers do their hobbies on the side. So although, you know, it's a very serious race out here, and, you know, Max Verstappen really looking to come out here today and clinch this AMX 5 race. He's also looking to do his hobbies tomorrow out at the Formula One out in Vienna, Austria. So glad that the team is so supportive of him out there in Formula One. And like I said, for those of you, that is absolutely sarcasm. There is the running joke Luke Crane, I believe, made a while back when they were running the 24 hours of Nürburgring, that yeah, Max Verstappen hopping off that, going out, and then winning another race. So we'll have to see. This may also be his good luck charm, getting out of the sim, having some fun, blowing off some steam. But like we said, he's not just out here to have fun. He's out here to win a race. He's out here to be another winner out at Talladega.
Yeah, and he's doing a pretty good job of it so far, but we'll have to see whether or not he makes it all the way to the end in first place. And yeah, we have to talk about strategy here, because as you mentioned before, there are a bunch of complex strategies that you can utilize here in NASCAR, especially when it comes to tire management in particular. Like, do you burn your tires early on to try and pull away, you probably can't because of the drafting. So you're going to try and save your tires at the very end. But then it becomes a matter of who manages to save their tires best. And usually the cars in the draft are the ones that are going to be able to do that. We're on board Valero right now, dropping back to P4 because of Max Verstappen taking the lead of the front train right now. Man, it's nerve-wracking to watch these cars because you're just never going to be sure of when something will happen.
And it's usually about points right here when you have about a 6-car train right here for the lead. So now it's starting to split up just a little bit as we see Luke Bennett now trying to form that outside line. So we'll have to see, of course, they're going to try and slot in, try to take away that line. But at the same time, hey, they're all teammates out here, but they're all looking for the win just the same. So that's going to leave a lot of work to be done for Evandro Dantas, as well as we have Bruno De Carmo right behind him as well. So these drivers going in. We are lap number 16 out of 25 out here at Talladega. And going on inside a little bit onto the screen. That leaves it too wide now. Door to door, Max Verstappen, Evandro Dantas. Oh no, they got into the side of each other. But Max Verstappen able to safely rejoin, slots it right in front of another car. That would be the number 6 of Bruno De Carmo. So that could have ended up a lot worse than it did, but luckily able to recover, get back in the line. Still shaking things up a bit, but right now I have a feeling that the Team Redline drivers are going to do all their best to try and get it as Max Verstappen back into first place. So we also have Bruno De Carmo, which looks like he may be working a little bit with Max Verstappen. So they're competing against each other too. Bruno De Carmo being a Delinta Esports driver, not one of the teammates of Max out here. But nonetheless, I have a feeling that really they're trying to get away from the rest of the drivers and leave it set up for those last couple of laps to have an all-out drag race to the finish. So that's what I'm assuming is going on right here from P2. Hey, I'll work with Max. I'll work with a couple of these Team Redline guys. But once we get into those last couple of laps, everything is getting lined out on the line. Gloves are off, and it's going to be an all-out brawl.
Yeah, and you can see in this particular train, there are 9 cars here. So at any point in time, any one of them could be vying for that top position as long as they stay within the draft. But on the flip side, that also means the risk of an incident occurring is that much higher compared to the more smaller, more spread apart trains. As you can see here, a lot of cars really trying their best to stay in their lane there, looking for opportunities to maybe slingshot past the current lead car of Max Verstappen. We have Bruno De Carmo and Pedro Mora holding on to the back of him just yet, trying to squeeze out those extra 1 to 2Ks from their top end. And Luke Bennett, also another Team Redline driver, is slowly closing in on this particular train as well, making it past Evandro Dantas. And the more I comment on this, the more scared I get. My heart is pounding a million miles an hour right now.
Like we mentioned earlier, from the qualifying, of course, you want to be able to get great positioning, but out here on these super speedways, your grid position isn't everything, as we've seen the lead change up several times throughout this. But I think right now, seeing Bruno De Carmo, he definitely is just waiting in line, just waiting for that opportunity. I know he has the pace. That's the only bad thing about being the front runner. Is, we see right there another vehicle going off the track a little bit. That is the number 15 of Josh Thompson. So Josh Thompson right there getting a little bit squirrely, but able to make it back in, slotting right behind his teammate of Luke Bennett. But like I was saying right here, definitely towards the front. I think that's what the strategy out here today is going to be. Just wait until the last couple laps, at which we're coming up very shortly right now, lap 20 of 25, as we have 2 trains going again. So now 2 trains of 4 cars right now, looking to make it 3 wide. A few people trying to make their move on the outside. This is where it gets a little bit dangerous, folks. As things are coming to a close, these guys are going to be doing whatever it takes to get onto the podium.
Yeah, about 5 laps remaining, and reminder that this is only Heat 1. We still have another race after this. So whatever the results of this, oh no! Oh, that's just a big crash happening there. I think Chris Lawler took a big hit there. Gonna be forced back. Luke Bennett as well. Gabriel Kraft. Another Team Redline car just went off. That is Max Verstappen actually forced off the track down to P9 after what looked like a stellar race from him all throughout the early parts of the race. But a lot of Team Redline cars are out right now. What a massive incident, and so close to the end as well.
So just like that, that is why I did not want to make any predictions, because what was going for a battle for first place between Max Verstappen and Evandro Dantas, the battle ends just like that. That's why I said, folks, Hakes is the littlest amount of mistakes, the littlest taps, as we see right here. Ooh, as well, Bruno Carmo getting a little bit squirrely. So right there, Pedro Mora and Bruno DeCarmo were 22, lap 22 of 25. The train is split, so now these cars, they're going to have to work together in tandem, which Redline is doing right now, going for that top line right near the very edge of the wall. Gael Valero slots out, tries to get behind that, but can't stay in the draft. As you can see right there, Max Verstappen. So it looks like he got just into the back of the number 5 car of Evandro Dantas, and that was enough to get it loose, going to the outside and spinning back to the inside. Max Verstappen getting sent to the inside wall, trying to hold on to it, but unfortunately that was just enough to get him, and he comes back on, right into the side of Diego Villarreal, and that's all she wrote for heat number 1. So right there, that was just enough damage. Throw Max Verstappen off the track, and he goes into the pits. So we have a few drivers now. It's looking like it's all Josh Thompson, Chris Lolum, Pedro Moro, Bruno DeCarmo. We'll have to see the 2 Redline teammates, as we only have a couple laps left out here, folks, in this heat number 1.
Ooh, careful on that infield there as they're making it past the back marker. Gael Valero was part of the team that was vying for that P1 position. Unfortunately, when he got out of the train, he scrubbed off a lot of speed, and that gave the opportunity for another 4 cars to get in front of him. Valero, however, not giving up just yet. He's back into the train. We're now too wide. We've got less than about 2 laps remaining. Ooh, Josh Thompson that's swerving into the bottom train to try and cut them off, and letting the Team Redline drivers make it through as well. The other train that they have going on right now. And yeah, Josh Thompson is just trying his best to make sure that the train behind him doesn't get too far ahead of themselves. And Gael Valero, of course, being part of that train, and he's rejoining the Team Redline train. I've said train way too many times that we're to spend the last 30 seconds, but that's exactly what it is right now. And penultimate lap, this is gonna be where everything comes to a head for this particular heat.
And that's the last thing you want to see coming into the final lap. We're on the back straight right now, lap 24 of 25. We do have lap traffic. We'll see. Are they going to be kind enough to get out of the way? Like I said, it's always up to the drivers, the fastest drivers, to try to get past them safely, but we'll have to see what these guys near the back, we'll have to see again, or if they try to slot into the draft. But we have that looks like Connor Healy and Tim State, the back getting lapped right now, so that's going to shake things up as they're holding their line. Definitely, oh no, not sure what they're going to do. They're staying on the inside line. Now, trying to have to pass them on the outside is going to be the Team Redline driver. So we have Josh Thompson, Christopher Lolum. Right now, the white flag is flying out here today. Now the train is back up again. So the lapped drivers not moving out of the way. Like I said, they don't necessarily have to. Usually, that's a courtesy that some people, as it is now shaking up the grid back to another 2 wide. It's coming up on more lap traffic. This is going to come down to the wire, folks, but I think we might be having potential red line 1, 2, 3 out here, as we see Gael Valero also holding on to that rear position going into turn number 3. Now, turn number 4, who is going to have it coming out, getting to the tri-oval? Gael Valero doing his best on the outside, gets sideways, and no, the teammates crashed. We had the number 11 going right there out onto the side, so that leaves room for Grafton to go up. So now Chris Lolum, Gael Valero, a drag race to the line. Will Lolum be able to hold on to it? It looks like he does. So Chris Lolum taking heat number 1, followed by Gael Valero and Pedro Mora. Unfortunately, that looked like Josh Thompson and Luke Bennett just getting into each other, sending each other spinning. So what may have been Team Redline 1, 2, 3 comes short right on the very last turn. But like we said, that is NASCAR out here, folks. It always comes down, coming out of turn 4, everything gets laid out on the line. Even when you are teammates, everyone's pushing it to the absolute limit out here.
What a finish. Team Redline really a bit of a mistake near the end there cost 2 of the Team Redline drivers the podium finish, but Gael Valero managing to hold on to the very end with that P2. A great drive from him as well, being able to stick to the back of the train all the way from the start until the end. And damn, what a first heat. That was unbelievably intense.
So there we can see, folks, and remember, a top 15 reverse grid will be going into the second heat as well. So unfortunately for Max Verstappen, he had to go into the pits and wasn't able to get back out. That puts him into 16th place. But your BenQ session winner right now is Christopher Lullum out there in the top spot, representing Team Redline, representing the UK. Gael Valero in second place, bringing it bound to the line, and Pedro Mora coming in third. Well as Bruno De Carmo fourth, Luke Bennett fifth, Josh Thompson sixth, Evandro Dantes seventh, Gabriel Krefta in eighth, Tim Stade in ninth, Connor Healy in 10th. So a lot of these guys that we seen towards the front of the pack getting into incidents, a lot of the guys were able to capitalize that got into some of those incidents early on. But like I said, it was a battle for first place quite a while between Evandro Dantes and Max Verstappen. And unfortunately, those guys just got a little bit too close, laid everything out there, and went spinning. So they'll have a chance to redeem themselves now coming into heat number 2. Luke Crane will be sitting on that pole position now for the second heat. But like we said, it's only a top 15 reverse grid out here at AMX. So unfortunately, Max Verstappen, who had to pit, get some repairs done potentially, is now going to still be in that 16th place position. So we've seen out on the road, Max Verstappen, the king of making up places. Will he be able to do it out here in heat number 2 of this NASCAR race? We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, with that heat 1 there, I'm going to have to see how heat 2 delivers just as well. And with so many cars on the grid, you kind of have to expect this sorts of things to happen just because of how intense the driving is and how little room for mistakes you have. So, Luke Crane starting on podium with Diego Villarreal behind him, Jackson Rossetti in P3, Austin Runkle in 4th, Pedro Melo in 5th, Connor Healy there going to try and go for a redemption drive this time around in 6th, Tim Stade in 7th, Gabriel Krefta in 8th, Evandro Dantas in P9, Josh Thompson rounding up the top 10. And right now, as they're going around this parade lap for the actual start, you're right. You were right not to make any predictions because I had no idea that anything in that heat was going to happen. And I'm looking forward to see what happens in this heat.
So right now we can see the two teammates towards the back of the pack. Everyone just trying to get a little bit in, but it looks like we have Max Verstappen as well as the number 9 car of Chris Lullum. So Chris Lullum doing an amazing job last heat and now is also going to fight his way. But like we said, you have a teammate towards the back of the pack. As long as you have one drafting buddy, it is definitely going to help you out immensely, especially within the first few laps, to try and make up as many positions as you can. And now for all the folks watching on Twitch and YouTube, we do have the live timing, so make sure to scan that QR code, get up here, see what we're seeing in the booth. But once again, out here the drivers are getting ready to head off. We do have Luke Crane and Diego Villarreal towards the top of the pack. Luke Crane sitting on pole, being able to start it as we come around.
That's a nice angle
for the green flag. Well, once again, Godspeed, drivers, here we go. Luke Crane getting an excellent start off of that, timing the green flag perfectly as we have Jackson Sanjay in second, Diego Villarreal, Pedro Melo. So these guys right away forming a beautiful train. Going to the outside, we do have Diego Villarreal, which we'll have to see if he'll be able to set that up right now as Luke Crane able to just hold on to that inside line. Right behind him, Jackson Sanjay. So once again, we are going 3 wide out here right away off the bat. Make that 4 wide here towards the middle of the pack. A lot of these drivers, oh no, Tim Stade looks like he gets a little bit squirrely, goes into Max Verstappen. Max doing a beautiful job of able to save that, gets right back into things, as well as we have Luke Crane starting to slow it down. So that leaves Pedro Melo, Jackson Sanjay, Krefta, the Brazilians now leading the race. So these guys, Max Verstappen, Connor Healy, they'll have to get right back into his slot, work together if they want to catch the rest of the pack.
That's problematic because Max actually suffered quite a bit of damage there, so he has to go into the pits to get it repaired, which means that he's already at a perilous advantage for Heat 2. This is definitely not his race for today. But on the front of the grid, we have Pedro Melo holding on to that P1 position with Gabriel Krefta just behind him as well. Gael Valero already to the top of the pack, making up 11 positions since the start of the race. So he's in a really good spot. All you have to do is make sure that he stays in the train like he did the last race and keep it nice and tidy all the way until the end. Jackson Rossetti pulling into the train right behind him. Ooh, a little bit of contact and we're going to the cardboard. Jackson Rossetti into the barrier. He goes.
So just like that, another victim of Talladega. The wall going in a little hot, and just that's all it takes, folks, is the littlest bit of contact or the littlest bit of mistakes, and you're going right into that outside wall. So unfortunately, Jackson Sanjay now sliding all the way back down. Right now, as you can see on the timing screen, Josh Thompson able to set the current fastest lap. So we'll have to see if he holds on to that. But it is all Pedro Melo, Gabriel Krefta towards the front of the pack, as well as Gael Valero. But like we see, Josh Thompson now trying to make it to the outside. He's waiting for the other drivers to slot in. But that shows the importance right here, trying to hold that inside line going into the banking.
Oh, what an amazing start to Heat 2 right now. We've already got a bunch of incidents happening, but the racing is as close as ever right now. Gabriel Krefta is still behind Pedro Melo here. We got Valero trailing, not very far behind. Josh Thompson also in that train, but 3 Team Redline drivers near the front half of the pack right now. So we'll have to see if they'll be able to form that train they were looking for and boost each other to the front of the pack. Trying to make it past Bruno de Carmo right now. He did suffer a little bit of damage, and these NASCAR next-gen cars are pretty fragile when it comes to high-speed collisions like this. Ooh, a little bit of a love tap from the Team Redline drivers of number 11 into the back of Josh Thompson. That's Luke Bennett there. A little bit of a shot. Oh, big accident yet again. That's Luke Bennett going off and crashing right into the car of Bruno de Carmo there. Oh, really, it's not Team Redline's day here.
So just like that, I was about to say, as they were going into the banking, trying to give a little bit of a bump trap, I'm just about to say that is one of the most dangerous things that you can do out here in these next-gen vehicles. I mean, really any of the NASCAR vehicles, but especially on these tight banks like this, if you give a little bit of a bump, especially trying to run that outside line, that makes the rear end of the car in front of you get just a little bit squirrely. And like you can see, coming out of that turn, that's exactly what happened, and unfortunately sent it into the wall. And like we said, we're only 5 laps into this thing, folks, so it is still anyone's race. But right now, it is looking very good for Pedro Melo, Gabriel Krefta, and Gael Valero, as the 3 are able to make a train, start running away from the rest of the pack. So we'll have to see. The pack behind them are going to have to start getting in together, start really working together, pushing with everything they have if they want to get back up into podium contention.
Yeah, so these trains are a lot more spread out than they were last time around. Last time around, there were like 7 or 8 cars within the same train. Now we're separated into groups of 3. But the cars of Pedro Melo, Gabriel Krefta, and Gael Valero are keeping it steady. And here's the incident with Luke Bennett into the back of Josh Thompson's car. A little bit of a drop. In fact, it wasn't even a rear bump. It was just a little bit of a pit maneuver into the back of Josh Thompson's car that forced them to lose control, crashing into Bruno de Carmo as well, and took both drivers out. One of them scraping the barrier, in fact.
So like we said, folks, just like that. So they're going to have to get their bearings together, get back on the track, and see what they can do. Try to hope. We have quite a few people now that are not on the lead lap, but nonetheless, I'm sure they'll try to get back in there and help out their teammates that are still on the lead lap, try to push them up towards victory. As we can see right now, we have in 4th place Evandro Dantas, still about a 3-second gap between him and the train in front of him, but we'll have to see as Evandro Dantas, Pedro Moura, Chris Lolum, they will be coming up very, very soon. Sorry, that was the Caterpillar car, so that was Luke Crane behind them. So Luke Crane kind of all out on his own out there in the middle of no man's land. Right now, this is the battle that I expect to see all the way down to the line. You can see Gabriel Krefta, Pedro Melo. So these guys out here, the 2 Brazilian drivers trying to make it a Brazilian 1-2. Like we said, don't forget about the guys in the middle of the pack now. They're about to start bunching up just a little bit. So these guys are going to have to work together as much as they possibly can. You see, it's all smiles down there on the picture. So I love seeing these views, as well as Gabriel Krefta. Love seeing these guys' room as well. So some guys you can see kind of in a space where they don't have much going on, others showing off their background. Speaking of backgrounds, we have seen from some of the other drivers, like Diogo Pinto, I still think has one of the coolest backgrounds in all of sim racing. But enough about that. Back to the action out here. We are on lap number 8 of 25 out here in heat number 2.
Oh my I don't think my heart can take this. I'm running on 3 cups of coffee right now. Getting a little bit jumpy here. But the car, the front pack, the front train of these 3 cars are actually pulling away for Evandro Dantas. So definitely they're helping each other out pretty substantially here, giving them just those extra 5 or 6 Ks that they need to just eke out an advantage over the rest of the pack right now. However, that is not to discount the train at the back. Of course, Chris Lolum, Pedro Moura, and Evandro Dantas are going to be locked in a battle of their own for that P4 slot. Meanwhile, Connor Healy, a little bit of a recovery drive from him from the rather dismal finish that he had last heat, now in P7, so pretty good position for him. And yeah, other than that, of course, we can also see that Max Verstappen, despite the early incident, has been slowly clawing his way back up, and he's about to approach the top 10 in just a moment.
That just goes to show, folks, although some of these drivers are no longer on the lead lap, they're still putting everything back out here. So that's the unfortunate thing. Like I said, it makes it very interesting, but makes it very, very difficult with no yellow flags coming out here today. If yellow flags would have came out, that would have definitely given a lot more room, and we've been seeing a lot more pack racing. But since that's not how we like to do, we like to switch things up out here. We like to make it difficult for these drivers, make it be everything out on the line. Sometimes it works out in your favor when you pull some moves out of your hat. Sometimes it doesn't, but right now it is still all Melo, Crefta, Valero, your top three, as they're about to come up on some more lap traffic. So a lot of these guys, unfortunately, like we've seen last race on the last heat, some of these incidents is going on later in the race. So these guys know, all right, they all want that top spot, but at the same time, they have to work together, also avoid any incidents, because Evandro Dantas, although there's over a 6.5 second gap, Evandro Dantas, Pedro Moura, Chris Lolum, Connor Healy, all of these guys that are towards the middle of the pack, all it takes is one mistake from your leaders to send them into the wall and let everyone else start catching up slowly.
Yeah, and it feels the worst as well when that incident happens at the very tail end of the race, at the 11th hour, you could say. And yeah, it definitely will leave a sour taste in your mouth. But we can see right now, the cars in the front of the pack, we have 3 Fords in the front. So unfortunately for Kevin here, who is a Chevy fan, he's not going to be too feeling a little bit underrepresented here. But we have to talk about the cars that are catching up to the back markers here. And yeah, a lot of the racing at this point is just being able to navigate these obstacles.
Right here too. So, well, I'm not too sad. I mean, we do have a Toyota in the lead, so I'll take that over a Ford. But yeah, still, Gael Valero, the only one in this lead pack out here in a Chevy. Gael Valero, usually we see him a lot of times in different Fords. I know we see him when we're out in the V8 supercars, when we're out in the GTE cars. He is a man that chooses Ford a lot, but not today. He's out here representing in the Camaro. Like I said, the 2 Brazilian drivers, Pedro Melo and Gabriel Crefta, been doing an excellent job. And that too, although these guys, we seen them earlier, all smiles out here today, all smiles out here today. They're working together as well as Gael Valero. We've seen Gael Valero doing an amazing job, able to hold on to the podium in heat number 1. Like we said, Gael Valero, although he is a driver for Apex, he was out here working with some of these Team Redline drivers, and that's what you have to do, folks. That is the beautiful thing about these NASCAR oval races, is although you're competitors in any other situation, you normally don't want to work together. Out here, you definitely have to have that teamwork if you want any chance at all at getting onto the podium. So let's see if Gael Valero will be able to hold on to it. And right now he's currently in 3rd, but the Frenchman definitely hoping to get into that top spot out here in heat number 2.
Yeah, and you can see from the timing boards, of course, that the draft matters so much. If you look at the gaps in time from qualifying and the actual race itself, that's 3 seconds separating qualifying times and race times. So yeah, draft matters super hard here. And here Chris Lolum here actually is looking to see if he can make it slingshot past Evandro Dantas, who's still holding up this particular train now. 7 seconds separating this particular train from the one in front. But Chris Lolum can still make something happen here. Just has to bide his time and wait for an opportunity.
So right there, like you said, a 7-second gap, but once these drivers, we'll see when they start fighting, or if they're going to wait to work until maybe the last 2 laps or the final lap. So that's one of those things we see here. Chris Lolum, giving him a little bit of a bump, just getting out to the room, take the inside right there. So that's a classic textbook stock car racing move. Just give him a little bit of a bump going into the turn. Like I said, not enough to crash him, but just enough to let him know, hey man, I'm here. I'm looking to pass you. I'm looking to get this. I'm taking this spot whether or not you like it. So that leaves Chris Lolum now leading the train. Right behind him, Pedro Moura and Evandro Dantas slotting in right behind him. So we have 2 groups of 3, one for the lead, and now in 4th place too. We'll have to see Chris Lolum if he's able to get his team back up on the T, folks. But like I said, right now, we're just over halfway through the race. We are lap 15 of 25. Still, Melo, Crafta, Valero, your top 3 leaders in this race.
Yeah, and you can see we're on board with Creta's rear bumper cam right now, just exactly how close these cars are and how little room for error there is. So these drivers are doing a really good job of working together in order to keep that gap between them and the next train a very substantial one. They're making it past the back markers again. Pretty wide track from a distance, but when you're up close on, oh no, that's got Valero into Pedro Melo, both of them into a big accident, flip there from oh no, I believe that is the car of Pedro Melo there. Yes, indeed. And Gal Valero just storms ahead to the front of the pack. In fact, that was Gabriel Crafta and Pedro Melo involved in an accident. Mistake from my end there. But, oh, this is going to be disastrous for Pedro Melo. He was doing so well up until that point.
And just like that, like we said earlier, folks, anything can happen out here in these races. No yellow flags, no cautions, and all it takes is one small mistake like that, and boom, that left room. Now, Evandro Dantas still only 9 seconds, but still leading the train of drivers, as well as you see another car, 4 cars behind him right there. That looks like Connor Hilling leading with Runkel. Crafta now also trying to get back into that. So Crafta 20 seconds, falling back quite substantially. Gael Valero, however, although he has an 8-second gap between him and second place, with no drafting partner out there, that gap is going to close very, very soon. So right now, Gael Valero doing what he can to try and get a little bit of breathing room, not getting into an incident. But we have Evandro Dantas. I expect with less than 10 laps to go, Evandro Dantas is still going to get up there. These guys, as long as they can keep it clean, as well as we can see, right on the rear bumper of Dantas, we have Pedro Mura getting a little bit scrolly, so sending it a little bit hard, as well as Chris Lolum right now kind of hanging back. But we see right there your top 3 leaders, the crash, the replay, picture in picture, just like right there, the number 10 car just gets hit and sent into the wall. So Pedro Melo just may have checked up just the slightest, like we see, trying to get into the inside line, but that is also why it's so dangerous out here for these cars, getting checked up right into the banking of turns 3 and 4, especially one of the most dangerous places out here on Talladega. So right now that leaves Gael Valero, Evandro Dantas, and Pedro Mura, your top 3, as well as Chris Lolum on that train. So what was the 9-second gap? Now under 6 seconds. He's at lap 18 of 25. I assume that they have just enough time to catch up, and we'll have a 4-way battle for the lead.
So a picture here, another incident between Max Verstappen and Luke Bennett. In fact, Max Verstappen may have accidentally just veered into the back end of Luke Bennett here, forcing both cars off. Max Verstappen was trying to recover it, but as you can see, as he's going to try and rejoin the track, he just loses control of the car and then spins it. So he's back into the pits. Luke Bennett's in the pits. That's Team Redline's 2 drivers out completely right now. We'll have to see whether or not they'll be able to rejoin the track. But in fact, another car of Josh Thompson is also completely out. So Team Redline all of a sudden feeling a little bit underrepresented here in Heat 2.
So like we said, and just like that, like you mentioned, Team Redline is nearly cutting their team in half out here. So we'd have to see, once again, a lot of these drivers, when they're used to NASCAR, they're used to, okay, there may be one driver out, maybe a couple drivers, the yellow flag flies, let time for the pit strategy to come in, but that is not what we have out here today. And so far, that gap right now down to about 4 seconds between Gael Valero and Evandro Dantas. So these guys definitely working together in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place. We see Chris Lolum, part of that pack, who's really eager to get out here and get this win. We've seen Chris Lolum in other series as well. Out here, AMX 20. We'll have to see. Hopefully he stops by tomorrow, as well as some of these other drivers out here. But definitely play the Jaws music, because Gael Valero, I'm sure, sees the timing on his screen. He knows these guys are hunting him down. They're working together, and it's about to be 3 versus 1, turn into a 4-way battle for the lead. So we have nearly 5 laps left out here in heat number 2.
Yeah, Chris Lolum is going to be looking to make is a double victory for himself. All he has to do is make it past Pedro Mora and Dantas here, as well as Valero near the tail end of it. And as you mentioned before, without a draft, he's just bleeding time away from this train. And once they finally get to him, it's going to be a matter of whether or not Valero can defend himself as the front of the train, stop the slingshot attempts from happening for the cars in the back. Less than 3 seconds now separating the gap. And while I thought in particular that he was going to be able to hold the lead until the very end, that definitely does not seem like the case right now. So, potential four-way battle for P1 here. We'll have to see if they'll manage to keep it neat and tidy. We don't want to see another last-minute incident like we did in Heat 1 there.
So here we go, ever so slightly. Evandro Dantas, Pedro Moura, Chris Lolum. Now the gap is down to just over 2.5 seconds between them and Gael Valero. So as each lap is going by, they're able to cut it down nearly another half a second. So the laps are ticking by. These guys, like I said, it's nearly a battle going on for second place, but they still have to know, all right, we have to work together, but the race is coming. The checkered flag is going to be here before we know it. That white flag is only a few laps away. We'll have to see if Chris Lolum, who is now the lone Team Redline driver out in the front, what he's going to be able to do to get back up on that podium position. But right now, Evandro Dantas, Pedro Moura, the two Brazilian drivers also doing a great job at working together. We've seen last heat, Evandro Dantas, quite a few of these drivers that were doing so well, ending up into some little incidences. But right now, as we see peeking out onto the inside, that is a place you do not want to be. Although you're trying to peek, make a little bit of a move. Don't get caught up there or else you will get eaten up by that turn number 3. So here we go, folks. Less than 2 seconds down now. Gael Valero still holding on to first place. Evandro Dantas, Pedro Moura, and Chris Lolum making up plenty of time here.
Yeah. 1.5 seconds separating him and Gael Valero. You can already see him in the front there, trying to utilize that train as well to get back the speed that he lost in terms of drafting. And so far, it is helping him. He is still managing to keep the lead at a pretty decent time here, 1.4 seconds. But as long as he stays in that drive, in fact, we've got 2 other drivers helping him out right now. He's going to try and pull away again, and as long as he manages to keep that distance, he'll be fine up until the end.
So as you can see right here, we do have Gael Valero followed by Diego Villarreal helping him out, giving him a little bit of a bump. What we'll see, is that enough? Is that going to be enough to keep him in the lead? Hopefully these drivers don't get into him a little bit more. So we do have another one of the Brazilian drivers right there, Delinta Esports. We see, looks like that is the number 6 car of Bruno De Carmo. So these guys right now too, also still trying to stay on the lead lap as well. Bruno De Carmo, Villarreal getting down a lap. So we'll have to see, folks. That helped out tremendously, but now it is under a second gap between Gael Valero and Evandro Dantas. So the train is closing in. We are on lap 24 of 25 out on the backstretch now, trying to make it a 2-train, 2 wide going out onto the backstretch. So we'll have to see. Now coming into turns 3, These guys definitely have a bit more speed going into that. So now Gael Valero all alone, going to get eaten up by Evandro Dantas. Although he has the inside line, that outside train is just a little bit faster. That is not the position that he hoped he'd be in. So I know he's thanking the guys behind him, but right now he's on the rear bumper of Christopher Lolum. So Gael Valero getting knocked off a podium as the white flag flies. Here it is, folks. We're going in the final lap now. We're going 2 wide into turn number 1. These guys are getting tried. Also, Gael Valero getting a little bit of a bump right there onto Chris Lolum. So getting a little bit sketchy, but these guys, they have the speed now, looking to make it now 1-2. So we'll have to see as Evandro Dantas slotting right back in behind them there on the back stretch. But folks, there is lap traffic as we're getting to get back into turn number 3.
Here goes the final stretch that will Valero be able to make the slingshot happen as they're about to exit the banking here. And this is really going to be too close to call. There don't have any incidents going on, but they're pulling up near the start-finish straight right now. Gael Valero is going to try and make a pass happen. Oh, really close there. He makes the pass happen. Chris Lolum might have just lost it. Got too much speed, and Gael Valero takes it at the very end. Very close for comfort, in fact. But kept it steady all the way to the end, and a well-deserved win for Gael Valero.
So absolutely beautiful pass at the very last moment coming out of turn 4. Gael Valero, you know he's happy about that, not only to put his country on the board atop everyone else, but also to beat out Team Redline, to beat out some of these guys that he battles out on the road day in and day out. Folks, right here. That is why Gael Valero is your championship leader at the moment. Being out here putting consistency not only on the road course, but keeping it consistent out in the oval, getting him in heat number 1 and heat number 2 up on the podium and coming away with the win out here, heat number 2. So big congratulations once again to Gael Valero, putting on a show all day long out here at AMX.
Yeah, amazing drive for Guy Valero to cinch it near the very end. Chris Lolum almost gave him a run for his money, but the last minute move from him manages to secure the position and the victory for him. Chris Lolum will going to have to settle for P4 behind Evandro Dantas and Pedro Moura as well. In fact, he was behind them almost the entire race. Austin Runkle here in P5. Connor Healy, pretty good recovery drive from him, making it to the top half of the pack this time around in P6. Bruno De Carmo P7, Diego Villarreal in P8, Jackson Resende and Luke Crane rounding up the top 10. And really unfortunate situation here for some of the other Team Redline drivers here. Max Verstappen, Luke Bennett, and Josh Thompson all near the back of the pack.
So just like that, folks, that's all it takes. A lot of accidents out here. Like we knew, it's Talladega, folks. So what an amazing race we had. Again, Team Redline stacking the grid out here. But like we said, a lot of these guys also being very, very consistent. So a lot of ups and downs, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears left out on the track today. But it looks like Gael Valero is the one coming out, your biggest winner out here today. So we'll have to see exactly where we go from here. Like we said, this may be the revival of AMX NASCAR. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But it's nonetheless, it's great seeing all of these road drivers out here, bringing it out to the oval, showing what they got, as well as a big shout out to the new folks out here, trying to put what they can, leaving it out on the line, as well as a big surprise out here. We had Max Verstappen, very surprised out on the oval. Connor Healy, we seen him last season. So it's been all around just absolutely amazing. Some drivers that were missed, some drivers we didn't expect to see, and nonetheless, absolutely great racing. As always, AMX, especially season 5, I think definitely this has been one of the closest seasons in terms of just every single race. You never know who is going to win.
Yeah, and I was around for a bunch of them as well. So we had some amazing photo finishes. We have some last minute moves that really turned the tide of the battle. In fact, this racing is so intense that my camera is dying right now, as you can see on screen. But we will be cutting to interviews in just a little bit, so stick around and we'll get words from our heat winner, Gael Valero. Hello, Gael Valero. How are you doing today?
Yes, it is me indeed, Gael Valero.
I mean, that was an amazing drive in the second heat. Really, that move at the end you really pulled off. What was going through your mind when you saw the fact that there was a 3-car train barreling towards you and closing the gap?
Man, there's nothing I can do. Like, the two guys behind me won't push me, so I just wait for my fate to come, and I deal with it.
I can see you already celebrating yourself. I just want to get your opinion, especially to some of the viewers at home, really maybe not too familiar with how NASCAR works. Like, what really sets NASCAR apart from any of the other disciplines, in your opinion?
First, we only turn left for a long time, and then this big V8s. And racing-wise, let's see. Well, it's all about playing with the draft. And especially with these cars, they are very dependent of other cars. There's a lot of stuff going with the aerodynamic wise. There's some kind of bubble that makes you go faster. There's aero push that makes you go slower or faster. So it's all of this kind of mechanics of dynamics that eventually you need to learn to perform and to understand how stuff works.
We're halfway through the season right now. You're actually putting in some pretty good results over the course of the season. How do you think you fare going into the rest of the season, do you think?
Well, hopefully as well as the first part. Sadly, I had to miss quali today to pick up something. Yeah. Anyway, worked out. Got great results in both races today. We'll see if tomorrow I pick up some result in AMX 20. I don't have such great results there for now, so we'll see if I can pick it up.
Yeah, definitely. I wish you the best of luck. And anything you want to say to anyone you want to thank, or the viewers at home, anything you want to say to them?
Well, thank you, especially for recognizing the Clio livery. Only the true ones know. I actually made it. I like to port the liveries. I actually did the Razor's one for the new Mustang as well. We're using it since we don't have a team livery for it yet, but yeah. And yeah, the racing was good today, so I guess thank you to everyone on the track as well.
Okay, thank you very much for this interview, Valero, and definitely good luck for tomorrow as well.
See you tomorrow.
Hi, Connor. How are you doing tonight?
Hello, how are you? Pretty good. How are you?
Now, just want to get into the nitty-gritty of it. You're known as one of our best oval drivers, but unfortunately, Heat 1 did come with a few difficulties for you. Could you talk us through what happened there?
So Heat 1. So I didn't I did qualify okay, but I think I just got oh yes, I'm trying to remember what happened. So basically, there was a crash in front of me that happened, and I tried to avoid it the best I can, but unfortunately I went into the back of that person, and it put me all the way back. So was just playing catch up from there. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, aside from that, you still did a pretty good recovery drive in Heat 2, so definitely congratulations to you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, that was actually really good fun catching up. I thought I was out from the beginning because I didn't have a great start on that beginning on Heat 2 as well. But having that recovery drive was a really good feeling to have, and yeah, it was a good fun race.
And can you talk us through what really makes you so good at oval racing specifically? Because we've seen you around, and you're definitely, I think it's one of your best disciplines in my personal opinion.
I've just been, I guess, have been interested in the oval side of things for a while. I haven't actually gone into any of the official stuff yet, but basically I was practicing with some of the Altus guys a while ago for a different series, but so I used that experience in here. So I was able to transfer what I learned there into oval here. So that's probably my main reason why I have some experience under the belt.
I mean, it definitely shows on the track today as well. Anything else? Is there anything you want to say to maybe someone you want to thank, or anything to say to the viewers that are currently watching?
Well, if you want to join us, please do. We host races all the time, and it's really a lot of fun, and anyone can do it as long as you have 2K iRating. And but for AMX 0, you can join those races without any iRating at all. So for what I want to say to anyone watching, that if you feel like you want to race but aren't feeling confident, AMX 0 is a great place to start in my regard. And just focus on yourself. Don't focus on I guess trying to be at the top straight away. Just focus on improving on what you can do yourself, and that's the best way to go about it.
Yeah, very inspiring to everyone, and thank you so much for the time. Hope to see you for more races. We're halfway through the season, and we hope to see you for a lot more races actually.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Well, those
So
were
there you
some
go,
very
folks.
inspiring
Heard it
words
from
from
both
Connor
them
leader
as
Ian
well.
here. Oh,
It's
sorry
great to
about
see that guy back. Hopefully we see him for some more races as well. So Gael Valero is now just increasing his lead in the championship points, as well as Connor Healy out here. Great to hear from him. Hopefully we see him a bit more. Like we said, I know he's doing some stuff with the Altus guys out there. But as good as he does in the oval, I mean, it'd be really great if we do see him in some other series as well. As a lot of people out there too, seeing all you guys out in the comments, Twitch, YouTube, we love you guys. Thank you for tuning in as well. Make sure to follow all of our social media. We'll be posting highlights. I'm sure some of these highlights from today's race may end up out there soon enough. But like I said, do that. Head over to amxrace.com. Tomorrow we do have the AMX Zero race coming up. So for anyone that wants to get in there, like Connor Healy was saying, that is a great place to start. If you're not sure how you feel or how comfortable, that's just a great place. Hop in there, and we'll see a lot of other drivers that maybe we don't see all the time also hopping in there too as well. But also, AMX 20 coming up tomorrow. David Toth, Chris Lullum, a lot of these guys out there. We'll see who will be able to lead the championship. AMX 20 has been heating up. But that'll be all for today's races, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, I am Kevin alongside with Damon, and signing out from AMX Season 5. We will see you all tomorrow.